Good evening, everyone. We are back for part number 2 of the DynamiXX Endurance Series, round 1, 6 hours of Zandvoort, here for what has been a fantastic race so far. My name is Daniel Handover, and joining me in the commentary box for the second part, I'm delighted to say, is still Ed May. Ed, how are you doing after we've had a short little break here for round number 1?
Just getting to get back in on all of the action, and I'll tell you what, there's stuff already kicking off. We can see a fight here for 5th place, following Martin Deckens, but right in behind, Flemish Sim Sports and Henrik de Grave are right up there. So things haven't really changed, have they? The action has still been as great as ever, Dan. The only thing that has slightly changed is the standings, which I think you can talk us through now up at the front. Well, you'll find out who's still leading the race.
Well, certainly so, yes. We are going to go through the lead, we're going to go through the grid for you in a few moments' time. I just want to see what happens here, actually. I'm intrigued to see what sort of goes on. Is it going to be leading straight into, as you say, what is a battle? Are we seeing a little bit of a move from Grave? I thought that was going to be, but decides against it, though. Just having it wide, close, isn't it? 2 hours and 32 minutes remaining. And then we will be able to see who will come away with round number 1's victory. So we are past the halfway point. And then once we get through the second half, obviously, will be interesting enough. Now, this second half, we're actually going to talk about this as well. But just before we go through the standings, the difference now, Ed, I think, in regards to what's happening and how drivers are now going to approach this second half is going to be wildly different to the first half of this race, I think.
So, Henry Grave with a mistake. You just saw a little bit of a twitch.
A little bit.
Ooh, it's getting. We're trying to run through all the standings, but it's getting a little bit distracted, isn't it, seeing all of this go on? We might keep following this fight for just a little while longer and see. Traffic could be playing a part as well. You can see Philip just up the road in the duct tape racing car, 11th in class, 11th on the road at the moment. Trying to get out of the way. You can see him dipping over to the left-hand side, allowing through Martin Deckens. Not able to allow Henrik de Grave through. Henrik too far back. So gets a nice, lovely, lovely double toe all the way out of the final corner. Has to back out the throttle though because of the loss of downforce. Also because of the extra speed he was carrying through. You can see that getting well out of the way. Good stuff by Philip Deegan. Duct tape racing. Good awareness from the back marker, and all of a sudden, look at that into the first corner. Henrik de Grave caught right back up there.
No, the gap is continuing to sort of go up and then come down again. A little bit of a tighter line there for de Grave. That's going to allow... actually, if anything, I think Martin Deckens got a better run on exit. So maybe the inside line doesn't quite work as well, interestingly enough. Also, we know for a fact that Porsche has insane traction going on the exit of corners. So it's certainly something just to keep an eye out for. But at the moment, the Flemish Sinsport number 86 is running around in P7. We've got another little bit of a battle further down. This is between Stefan Beckery for the WPR Racing, and this is, I believe, De Vlemek. De Vlemek for the MC, or the Muck Challenge by DB. The battle here is around about 0.4 of a second. And I've just noticed as well, another battle has started to develop. Oh, interesting. Steph Del News and Lucas Romano. That is for the RP Motorsport Verde car and the Dynamic Simulators Red. So we've jumped back onto the stream then, and we are treated to 3 separate battles here, which is always good fun. Exactly what we want to see, to be fair.
Yeah, it's what you always love to see, isn't it? And gap's closing down even at this stage of the race. There's always action. There always has been action, though, in this DynamiXX Racing Simulators Endurance Championship. Last season with multi-class, there was plenty to talk about, plenty to dissect, especially in the GTEs. And now, where it's a championship with GT3s and multi-class technically, because there is one Porsche Cup car, but mostly just all GT3s. Look at that send. It was a little bit of a look down the inside, wasn't it? Well, maybe not just a little bit. Definitely a big glare down the inside by Lucas Romano. Wasn't able to take advantage, but credit for trying, wasn't it? Definitely putting all the pressure but maybe feeling some of himself, getting that little bit too hard pressing to find a way past. Zandvoort Vales as well, getting there, trying to come through.
Arguably,
You can see all of the action going on, and to be fair, maybe he wants to sit back and let the two squabble out.
Well, that's what I was thinking actually. But you know, that small little moment that that Lucas Romano had, it has really put Sam Puttevels very much in the tow and in the slipstream. So if we can see Puttevels that's going to continue to just sort of maintain that pace at the moment. I mean, look at that gap now. It's gone from 0.7 of a second down to 0.4 of a second. It's really, really coming down now, and it's coming down a lot quicker than I think we were initially, or I was initially thinking anyway. We've got Luke Thies as well as had a small moment somewhere. He's had an off track. Couldn't quite see where that is. Let's have a quick look and see if we can have a replay on that. Oh, you can see that straight away. Oh, was that coming down to turn 8? I believe it. Oh, manages to keep it going. Keeps it out of the barrier. Wow. Fair play indeed. Oh, we've seen that Puttevels has actually lost a little bit of time. Wonder what that's... imagine it's where you can just hear a front runner come through. Can't quite see who that is. Could that be Jens Gussens? I believe it. Yes, it is actually. It is Jens. So that was Jens Gussens coming through. Battle possibly as well. That's Ascend. Tried to do it last lap. Couldn't quite get it done. Manages to get it done this time around though. So Lucas Romano just got the tail end of that. Goes up the inside down to the one of the slowest corners on the track. And manages to maintain that position, having already pulled 0.4 of a second out. Let's see if we can have another replay of that. Here it is. So going through again, just last late break. Look how far the lunge was back, though. And again, made the corner. We've seen that earlier on. For the life of me, I couldn't remember who it was. I believe it was the DynamiXX pink car. Was it? No,
yeah, it was.
Was it Yagazoglu?
Yeah, it was Yagazoglu who did plenty moves, but I think his teammate as well, when he got in the car, also did a fair few moves similar. Seems to be something in the water in that DynamiXX pink car. Definitely very, very eager to get on. Good to see everyone back in the chat. Joining Jakub Szymanski. Good to see you back here. Because there's, well, the action doesn't stop, does it? There's so much, there's just so much stuff going on. You could just see a replay there. Some bit of Vales.
Actually getting past Stefdal News. So Stefdal News was actually getting out of the way, I believe, of Jens Gussens. But that instead left the door open for Sam, the number 4 tri-racing car, and Sam was like, yeah, okay, and I'll take that. And,
touching on ways.
Yeah, and off he goes. Well, yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, you know, there was Stefdal News. I mean, certainly, obviously, did have to. There were blue flags. Arguably, wouldn't necessarily have to be that, move out of the way that much, and obviously that did cost a position, which is unfortunate. But there's, there's plenty of time left in the race to bring that through. What's happened? Oh, we just seen a puff of smoke. Was that a spin for Samil Yagazoglu? I believe it was in the 88. Let's see if we can get another replay. That replay's coming thick and fast. Oh, yes, that's not good on the grass. Certainly what you don't want. Is it out of the barrier? Yes, it is. I mean, to be fair, that was, 5 seconds lost, maybe, if that.
Yeah, but not good for the tyres. And this is the stage where you want to look after the tyres. If you're trying to double stint, maybe even triple, depends on what the teams are doing, what those tyres look like. When it comes in, the percentages are basically the real tell if you can make it to the end of a second stint, or if you have to call it a day and bring it back in. I think Yagazoglu, this is his first stint on these tyres, so I'll be looking ideally you can get away with it to attempt a double, but it's going to be telling, I think, in these coming, so I guess 20-30 minutes, what exactly will come through. Have a look at his lap times. I mean, obviously that last lap not representative, 1 minute 40 because of that mistake. Lost pretty much what you said, about 5 seconds, about probably 4 or 3 depending on what the average lap time is for that car. Have a look as well. Nick Pouliot, he's put in pretty decent laps, not too far off of the best lap for that car this race. But of course, the track temperature, since we've been gone, Dan, has fallen down. You can see 27 degrees now. Whilst I think last time we checked 36, 34, so definitely getting cooler. But the action still hotting up.
I like what you did there. I like what you did there. That was nice. That was nice. Yeah, it's actually getting on. It's getting on for what 7 minutes to 6 in the evening in game time. So I've just had a thought. Obviously, I know it's in May actually. And, obviously in May that helps with the that will help with the fact that simply the track will not be getting as dark as quickly. Although I wonder when the track will actually start to get dark. We may see the final 30 minutes or so, possibly in, I wouldn't say darkness, but certainly not too far off. It will certainly become, dusk at that point, I think. At least dusk. If not, it will start to be going into the night. What I am noticing as well, that will make it so we've got 2 hours and 20 minutes remaining of this race. So that will bring it to... Oh, yeah, that will be getting on for 8 o'clock. Or past 8 o'clock, actually. Around about sort of 8:15, the race will finish. So I would imagine it would certainly be getting into night time. Actually, I mean, exciting for me. I'd love the sort of dawn or dusk race. And I absolutely love that sort of time to commentate because everything looks so pretty and it's just really... it's just great looking. So we are going to see that, I am sure. That does raise the question, though, is how low will the temperature get? I was wildly wrong, and I said, it might drop to 32 if we're lucky, and it's just blitzed past that. We're now at 27. At the rate we're going, I don't know, maybe 23 then, I'd say. Maybe 22 even. I can't see it getting much cooler than that, but I was wrong the first time. There's no reason I won't be wrong the second time, to be fair.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say this is starting to be a little bit of the time of the race where we were saying earlier the Drivers' Guild are going to settle into their rhythms. Gaps are closing down, gaps are opening up. Vales, Romano. Oh, I think that's put Vales and Del News actually closing in to one another. Was it put Vales and Romano? I'm trying to think now. It's whatever it is.
No, you are right. Yeah,
Romano. I was right first time. And I
think
think it's because Romano's been held up slightly with back markers.
Yep, you are absolutely correct here. And in fact, there is Peter McKay, currently driving the Porsche Sport Porsche in the Porsche category of being the lone Porsche in the Porsche Cup class. I don't know what I was doing, but I tried to run with it then. And I mean, to be fair, still going around at the moment. Like, pace seems to be... Obviously, the battles that obviously that little battle there, that little bit of hold up for both parties there. But we are seeing that the times from that the Porsche Sports Cup car sort of maintained. We've seen that throughout the circuit, which is fantastic, throughout the race. And obviously, with the track getting a bit cooler, again, that will start to... I'm sure that will actually start to get a little bit cooler as well, and the tracks will get even faster for those Cup cars. Having a look, this is the closest battle we've got out on circuit as it stands. But again, once people come in for some additional pit stops, then we're going to start to see everything change a little bit more. So majority of drivers have done 3 stops. Some drivers have done 4. Duct Tape Racing, Sim District, GT3, the number 14. And I believe, no, that is actually, apologies. I'm just trying to think who that is. No, it's Sim District, Xenum, and McChallenge have all done 4 pit stops as it stands at the moment. And they're the only people that have done 4 pit stops except TNTs, who has done 5 stops. So certainly not the amount of pit stops that they would be looking for, which is a little bit of a shame. But again, plenty ways to go. It is certainly not over yet. We're going to give you a quick rundown of the order, though, if we can. So we're just going to switch over to, as we can see there we go. So currently leading the way here, Sim District GT3 by Vibe. The number 44 is leading, and I can't quite believe this, leading by 2 minutes. The interval is a lap. It's an entire lap, and there is still 2 hours and 20 minutes to go of this race, which I find absolutely astounding. That is currently driven by Scott McFall. Scott McFall, apologies. In P2, we've got Xenum Esports number 1, Jens Goosens, currently driving that number 16. Nick Pouliot in the Dynamics Bell Speed car, the number 1 in P3, with the Dynamics Pink car in P4, and that is currently driven by Samil Yagazoglu. Dynamic Racing Simulators, so the 3 Dynamics cars in P3, 4 and 5, of which the Racing Simulators cars the number 6 in P5, and then Flemish SimSport in P6. The driver we are currently riding on board with Sven Putterville for Tri Racing in number 7 in P7, the number 4 Porsche, and then Lucas Romano, which Sam Putterville's overtook not too long ago, in P8, having lost 1 position since the start of this race. Steph Del News for the Dynamic Simulators Red in P9, the number 384, and then Warren Letts in the Decimu.be in P10, and that's car number 10. Duct Tape Racing P11 with Sim District GT3 by BMS Esport, the sister car to the Lamborghini currently leading, the number 14 BMW, and the sole BMW running as it stands in this race in P12. Xenom Esports number 2, Milan Phaeton's currently driving that, the number 12, Lamborghini in P13. And then we have, that is Divlamic McChallenge by DB, number 103 Audi. Again, only one of 2 Audis still, well, only one of two Audis in this entire grid in P14. And then that is Stefan Bechui, WPR Racing in P15. We also do have Luke Thies still driving, still running around 131.72 laps completed, currently running in P16. And then we have Peter McKay, the sole driver for Porsche Sport, currently running in the Porsche 911 Cup car, again with an absolutely fantastic livery. I really, really do like. I've been lucky enough to see the liveries on these cars multiple times before, and I absolutely adore them. They are really, really good looking cars, and arguably I think these look even better on the new modern cars compared to the old Cup cars. They look good on the old Cup cars. They look really, really nice in these new ones. And that is it. That is your grid for both classes as it stands after the 3 hours and 43 minutes mark. Slightly interesting hour to do it on, but we'll go through it nevertheless. Are we going to see that stay the same, Ed? I mean, we don't know, do we? We simply do not know.
Yeah, you don't really know until obviously the checkered flag drops and all the cars come across the line. That's the real tell of who's done well, who hasn't. But there's definitely a lot going on. I don't know if the overlay is quite working on broadcast. I'm just trying to see what's going on, because I think it's stuck for me. I'm not sure if it's the same for you. We're having some slight issues, I think, with our live timing software. Hopefully that can all be rectified and back up. But nevertheless, got some exciting action coming through. You can see gaps closing just about. Sam Puttervale still now just about 1 second behind Henrik de Grave for Flemish Sim Sports. Alpha 6th place brewing away nicely in the background. Good to see, though, Peter Mackay actually out on the circuit, getting involved in the action. Commentator for, obviously, the Porsche Cup GB series that's broadcast here on the sim race as well. Decides to get behind the wheel of the Porsche room himself, and to be fair, not doing a bad job in the lead of his class, is he? He's not actually too far back in terms of pace either compared to those around him. Obviously, differential in terms of speed between the GT3s and the Porsche Cup cars, not massive, not monumental. Over the course of this race, it's about the tune of 2 seconds a lap, usually, but sometimes mistakes, sometimes little things here and there mean that this Porsche can be just a little bit faster. There isn't really any areas for the Porsche to properly open out the taps in terms of its top end straight line speed. The Porsche Cup car, obviously, that's its main benefit, is fast in a straight line, fast top speed, struggles slightly in the corners compared to GT3s, but as you can see on that last lap, he wasn't really being chopped back too much by the other Porsche, the Porsche that we are having a look at now. This one being driven by Martin Deckens, who's very, very loosey-goosey out of turn 10. Slamming a couple of wheels onto the dirt. The exit. Gains it nicely, but I think when I was driving the Porsche, I found that it was so tricky to catch it once it's gone. We've seen that so many times of drivers losing the rear of the car, and it becomes very difficult to save because that's where all the weight is.
Yeah, 100%. It's inherently the problem with Porsches all of the time, and it's been it's been an inherent Porsche problem in its own in its own way. Although again, they managed to make it work, and with perseverance in the car and the right ability to manage the tires, and also manage the tires, manage the weight, and manage the weight transfer. That's the key thing that will get you. It's the weight transfer and how much it can build up momentum. When you're going into a corner, especially with something like the Porsche, in a mid-engine car, it's not as bad. In a front-engine car, obviously, it's nowhere near as bad. But once that rear engine starts to pick up a little bit of momentum, if the car starts to go around, then all of a sudden, you'll just see the car, as it rotates, the momentum really gains quickly. It was worse in the old car. In this new car, it's much, much easier. Sorry, we're talking about the old Cup car as well. But even in with this newer Porsche, it's a bit easier to control. The Cup car was just very, very lethal for it because it didn't have the traction to compensate. The tyres would just get overwhelmed so fast. Whereas in the GT3 and both the new Cup car, it certainly isn't as bad. But yeah, once that momentum carries over, it just pivots the car around. And it is tricky to save. Porsches have always been inherently tricky to save. Again, modern cars now, especially with modern GT3 cars with traction control and ABS and stability and several other clever technological advancements, they aren't as tricky to drive, but they certainly are something you can't just jump in and drive it. The BMW, for example, is, or can be, you've still got to plug a lot of time into it, get the most out of it. But the BMW is something that you will be able to, I wouldn't say plug and play almost, it's the wrong phrasing. But it certainly is a more comfortable car to drive when it's, quite early on, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It is, obviously, the early stage is the car is just getting used to it. I definitely think, I definitely hope as well, actually, that we see more drivers involved, at least in the Porsche Cup class as well. So maybe Porsche Sport, maybe have something to work for. But again, I'm not sure they're going to be too upset. They're driving 6 hours on one of the most demanding technical circuits and one of the most fun cars on the iRacing service right now. They can be too upset by that. As fastest lap of the race so far for the number 103 car, just being put in by the Vlamink. In 13th place, currently focusing on trying to bring that gap back down against Milan Phaetons for Xenium Esports 2. Too badly either. So it's the time of the race. It definitely is coming down. Yeah, it's getting closer and closer lap after lap. Coming up to the phase, though, where we expect drivers to be making their next pit stops in around about 20 or so minutes. As the race goes on, pit stops come through a little bit after the hour mark each time by, as on average drivers are able to make their stints last at least at this particular phase of just about an hour and maybe a lap or two extra, depending on how well they've been able to save the fuel, look after the tyres, all of that goodness. And Phaetons was a bit slidey there, wasn't he, actually coming into that chicane, a little bit loose at the rear, but regains it nicely, carries plenty of speed, and there's definitely a battle occurring here. Last lap time, Milan Phaetons was around about half a second faster than Stefan Kalbrecht up the road. What is the time differential going to be this time by? So it was Stefan Kalbrecht with a 1:37.5, Milan Phaetons a 1:37.7. So battle then swings in favour of Stefan for the moment, but they are very evenly matched, and the gap, well, it's still coming down. Once that gets under about 1.2, 1.5 seconds, you start to get a little bit of slipstream, and you get more and more underneath that 1 second margin down towards about half a second. So could help out Phaetons here, but this is not where the car is at its strongest. This first sector does not really favour the Lamborghini too much. The fast flowing corners favour a car with a wheelbase such as the BMWs. But then into the next half of the lap is when the Lambo starts to show its colours and start to shine a little bit more, coming out of slower speed corners, acceleration, more the car's strongest suits and the quick direction changes. And the Lamborghini is definitely a good car to be in favour of. You can just see through those past two corners, able to shave a couple tenths back, gap coming down and down and down, more and more and more. Now into the chicane where the BMW really does tend to struggle. And the powering out from the slow speeds, Lamborghini closes the gap. Speaking of closing the gap, well, Lord Malot's set the fastest Sector 6 of anybody this race so far in closing the gap down to Stefan Delnuz, obviously aided by the slipstream, and he's going to go for it down the inside. Has he got the move? Oh, that was very, very close. But you know what? Lord Malot's for Desmo B has got it done. Again, it was a very dramatic move. Slightly late on the brakes. Well, not slightly, very late on the brakes. Tell you what, both cars played their part, made sure that move was safe. Credit to both of them.
Yeah, certainly so. You are absolutely correct. Good move there. It was also as well, as you said, it's clean. It was clean, wasn't it? It wasn't something that was overly aggressive. The aggression was there, but it was assertive at the same time. It wasn't overly aggressive. It wasn't pushing anyone off the circuit. It worked. It was, so overall, it's just a very, very good move. And that gap has already now extended to 1.3 seconds from, that is Stefan Lewis and Ward Malats. So that gap is really starting to take off. I'm having a quick look again because I'm not taking my eye off too much of the Vlaming and Phaeton's battle. Well, I say it's not a battle at the moment, although Vlaming has pulled a second off of Phaeton's. So at the rate we're seeing, maybe another... It's tricky because obviously, pit stops aren't too far away now. But we are going to probably start to see... I mean, also realistically, it depends on who takes tyres, who doesn't take tyres. Again, this is the unknown, isn't it? We're stepping into the unknown because we don't know what is going to happen in regards to moving forward with the racing, moving forward with what strategies people want. We've got an idea, but we've still got 2 hours left of the race. And that strategy may change. That may change completely, in fact. We really don't know. So until, we spoke about this before, until like the last hour or so, I'm not 100% sure what's actually going to happen, to be fair. Which, again, just adds to the excitement, especially as well, because, there's so many different outcomes.
Yeah, and it is just all down to those little moments in these races that you might not think of when they happen, but they can all add up, don't they, Dan? And you see in a very good fight here against Delnuz. Actually, I think this is not a fight. This is fight out of class, or at least in class, but lap separate from one another. But again, actually, very fast times coming through from Ward Mallarts, who is currently fastest in terms of the first sector. So all of a sudden, this Decimo B car is really coming along. Car that was obviously put on the front row of the grid alongside the Sim District GT3, the Lamborghini that's currently leading the race by well over a lap. And I think now the car is starting to come back on song just a little bit more.
Put it this way as well. Ward Alerts was actually the fastest person out on circuit by about 0.3 of a second. Which, considering you've had Scott McFowle putting in some amazing lap times, that's a very impressive feat, to say the least. Stefan Kalbrecht is one of the first people to come in for the 4th pit stop in terms of the people. Interesting enough, though, again, not actually before the hour, interestingly enough. Something to also keep an eye out of. Is that going to change too much? We simply don't know until we get through at least another hour or so of this race, and then we're going to start to have a bit more of an understanding. I think the last hour or so, I'm sure you would agree, the last hour or so, then we start to get an understanding. Maybe even after this pit stop. Now we can start piecing a couple of things together. Now, obviously, realistically, so at the rate we're going, will we see Robin Van Gogh has actually just got back in the Sim District number 14 car. Are we going to see possibly being able to get now with one more pit stop only, or are we going to see, we might even see that the Robin Van Gogh may need to actually do a bit of a splash and dash at the end. Anyone that passes past the hour mark, you can pretty much safely say and almost guarantee that only one more pit stop is needed. Again, that's certainly not set in stone. We can't assume that. We can't assume that as to be gospel, but we can certainly have a nice understanding of it. Okay, and we can sort of start piecing that information together in a nice, easy sort of format. I've just noticed as well. Yagdazoglu is 1.2 seconds now away from Nick Poilet. So this is actually starting to come down a little bit as a battle. Is it not? I'm just having a quick look. I wonder, last lap times, we did see the Dynamics pink car was around about about 3/10 quicker than the Dynamics Bell speed car. In fact, there you can see that car. It's the indistinguishable pink Porsche 911, and that gap is coming down one way or another.
Yeah, and you can see that little piggy on the front of his car, but is it going to go wee all the way into third place? That's definitely what he's going to be hoping for, isn't it? Hoping to see if he can get up the order. It's this mid-stage where you can start to set yourself up for glory at the end. So they've got, arguably, I think, probably one of the fastest drivers in that Dynamics Bell Speed car in at the moment. Nick Poilet has been putting in some excellent performances so far, but to be fair, that whole squad has been very good. Semi Yagazoglu as well, very strong. So I don't know who's going to come out on top in this one. They're both very fast drivers, both as well driving in the Dynamics colours. Hope that there's no contact, because that would leave a very, very sore taste in the mouth of the Dynamics boys, that'd be for certain. Look how much he closes in on the brakes as well. He's so strong on corner entry, and then relies on the ability of the car, because all the weights at the back, just to power out and get that nice, stable, strong exit, which he does. Gap is now well under half a second. Yagazoglu on a charge, fastest through sector 3.
It's coming down, isn't it? It's coming down quick. This is going to be... I mean, again, at this pace, you can comfortably assume it's a sooner rather than later, can't you, to be perfectly honest? And once it gets to a certain point, most probably into turn 1, if not before, once you get to that point, there's really not a lot that I don't really think that can be doing. Here we go. Is going to go to the inside is the Bell Speed car. But are we just going to see Yagdazoglu just go on the outside? I mean, goes on the outside. There was no defence there from Poilet, and again, I don't think he was going to try and defend that, was he? Let's be honest. Recognised relatively early on that move was coming. It was coming at some point at least, and obviously that helped I think that helped the situation massively in terms of actually deciding. Well, yeah, let's try and let's just let this move happen. I think.
I think as well, he knows that there's a 22-second gap all the way down to Martin Deckens in 5th place, realises that he can give this fight up for now and hope that if Yagazoglu gets out of the car, other drivers get into the car, maybe on the balance of things, they're still fairly even in pace in terms of the level of driver to come through for both these two teams. And in the next pit stops, differing strategies as well, potentially coming through. It doesn't make sense to really fight too hard. Instead, cut your losses, at least bank on getting 4th as a minimum, based on the advantage you have to the rest of the field. And instead, set your sights on, well, potentially getting big reward at the end. Let's not forget, though, this Dynamic Racing pink car was involved in a bit of an incident, wasn't it, earlier on in the race at the first hour? It was between Dynamics Racing Pink and, if I remember rightly, the Decimo B car, wasn't it? And that was on the run into turn 3, a little sort of coming together at the apex. All of a sudden, that car's stayed very strong in terms of pace, avoided major damage, and came back up like a rocket.
It's very true. Yes, we've seen. That's actually a really good example of just an attrition race. Isn't it? Just pushing the car, not overly aggressively, but enough that you've got a comfortable sort of continuous pace. You know the car isn't going to be too sort of wayward. It's not going to try and push too much. It's not going to, it just is a, well, I suppose probably the best way to put it, it's just a controlled race. Yes, it doesn't always go your way, but if an incident like that, I suppose if an incident happens early on, then you've got to make sure that you can put it behind you quickly as a team, not just an individual, as a team. Now, once you can do that, head down, crack on, and yeah, anything, there's certainly nothing to say that with an endurance race, if an incident early on is you get involved with an incident early on, there's nothing to say that you can't then pull that back up. I just had a quick look. Milan Phaetons is in the pits. Why is the DynamiXX 2 car in the pits? Because they've already made a stop. They've already made their 4th pit stop. This is not scheduled, and I wonder why.
I think actually they had to pit. I try and remember, but I think I saw something in the notes that they also used Fredericks. Was black flagged earlier, so they had to go in for an unscheduled stop and go anyway. So I think this is back on schedule. They just had to make an extra pit stop due to being black flagged earlier on. Not entirely sure when that happened, but I saw it happen in the server when we were off air for a little bit. And I think that could have just been because of the few incidents accrued in the race that they were deemed to be at fault for. Had to serve a stop and go penalty, but they're back out on track. So nothing too worrying yet for DynamiXX 2. Not quite pushing the panic button, but maybe holding their finger just above the big red button.
Yeah, I mean, like literally what you just talked about, so a small little spin there, maybe drop 5 or 6 seconds. Can that be gained back? I mean, absolutely. It's not over. There's certainly many more laps to go yet. We're under the 2-hour mark, though. So that is an hour and 57 minutes remaining. And then, as I said, once we get into the final hour, that's when we're going to start seeing the times really start to... Well, we're going to see, really what is going on in regards to who is where, who is on what strategy, what teams are we expecting to start to move up the order once the final times have gone through. Again, I wonder, is this a bit too much of... Yeah, I think it is, actually. I was about to say... Is Agazoglu, I mean, unless they've got a really good strategy underneath them, are they going to, speaking of Agazoglu just actually goes into the pits along with Poilet, are we going to see Agazoglu catch up possibly the Dynamics Pink? Are they going to catch up to DynamiXX? Are we going to see that at all, do you reckon? I mean, the gap is about 30 seconds, something like that. It's ridiculously big. But if they have possibly a slightly different strategy in terms of tyres. If they don't take tyres and they can still maintain good pace, if it saves them 20 seconds in the pit stop, they might be on... I don't know, it's like... I'm just wondering, has someone got something up their sleeves that we just don't know about yet?
Well, with about 2 hours still to go, even if there isn't necessarily a tyre thing, if they can just keep, in terms of pit stops, maybe saving a tyre stint. If they can keep their tyres in better condition regardless, they'll set faster laps, and it's not unheard of to make up 30 seconds in the space of 2 hours worth of racing. So I think that could still be done on the track. Maybe not necessarily done in the pit stops, but like you say, plenty of pit stops are going on as we speak. And it is, let's have a look at DynamiXX Racing Pink. Jesse Hendricks now taking control of the 88, which is, I think, back on the racing circuit already. Order getting shuffled about just... Yeah, definitely. It means they have taken tyres, and I think that probably tells us it's going to be Jesse Hendricks till the end. You don't usually like to change driver midway through a tyre stint. It's better to have the driver on board so they know the progression of the tyres. They're more at home. They can settle into a rhythm, and of course they'll be quicker as a result because they know exactly the state of the tyres as they got them and how that's materialised over the course of a stint. They know the limits and they can push them to it. Nice and easier and safer, as well as just, like I said, being a bit quicker as a result. Jesse Hendricks then, DynamiXX Racing Pink, all on him essentially to bring it home for a podium. Maybe if he can get through to snatch a second place as well.
Yeah, possibly. I'm just having a look, actually. Looking at the pit stop, I don't think Jesse Hendricks took tyres. Because their
Do
pit
not?
stop was 42 seconds. That's not enough
Oh.
for tyres. That's brave.
Ooh.
That's very brave. I wonder what's going to happen.
Definite roll of the dice.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I wonder if... well, I mean, to be fair, we're going to find out. Scott Mafal, and this is Unenbroek that now is coming into the pits for the DynamiXX. Yeah, look at that. So a third place is now on the card. Well, Jesse Hendricks is third place, and look at that. The Xenon Esports 1 car is now just pulled out a second behind. So I tell you what, they certainly have something up their sleeve, and this was it. They're now in P3 after working their way back. I think at one point, what were they? They were 13th or something?
Yeah, they were definitely down the order, weren't they, after that incident earlier on in the race? About, what, 40 minutes gone? All of a sudden, 4 hours. Oh, pardon me, 4 hours. They're up in third. But again, not necessarily fully out of the woods just yet. There's still a little bit to be said about their competitors that are, well, not too far behind, really. Renzo Willenbroek, definitely there or thereabouts, isn't he?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. You know, it's 1.1 seconds. New tyres versus old tyres. Both on fuel. You know, I mean, how do you really sort of go about this at the moment, to be honest? It's... You know, I mean, really, I'm not 100% sure. If Hendricks can hold off for even... This is the... Even if Hendricks can hold off, say, for example... possibly like 10 or 15 laps. I don't think there's going to be too much to worry. Like, Hendricks might try and really defend and just cost time, because that means then if Hendricks then comes into the pits for the next pit stop and then runs another tyre set on a single stint, well, that's going to give a really good opportunity to Hendricks, because then that team, the Dynamics Pink car, they're going to be able to actually increase their lead. Well, maybe not increase it, but they're going to be able to set significantly faster lap times because they're going to be on tyres that are a stint younger, essentially. I don't know if it actually made that much difference thinking about it. I reckon that Hendricks and the Dynamic Pinks car, the 88, I almost think, are they just now going to stick in their car now and that's it? They're just going to try and run those tyres for another 2 hours. I have a feeling. I could be wrong. I just have a feeling that that's what they're doing. They've almost committed to this now. There's no point trying to change the strategy. You've committed it to it enough that I think the strategy will work, providing they can keep the pace up, not drop too much time. But no, because then Udenbroek, I doubt they'll be changing tyres again for the remainder of 2 hours. Oh, yeah. It's close. It's interesting. Oh, it's going to be really interesting come towards the end. Either that or this could be a battle now for the next for the next hour and 50 minutes. It might very well be, to be honest.
Might carry on. I think it does essentially mean that, I think, if anything else, Renzo Ellenbroek has been forced into a double stint here, because this is, I mean, you can see he's closing in. He's going to look to the inside. Jesse Hendricks is going to have that covered, though, into the first corner. And I think for Jesse, the main thing is to weather the storm. You can see the car behind Renzo. His tyres are going to be at his very best for the next 5 or so laps. After that point, they'll start to drop off and hit that plateau where Jesse should be at the moment. If he can get through that phase, he should be golden. I think his teammates are probably telling him the exact same thing. Hold on, stay strong. We have faith in you. The track is cooling down every single minute that ticks by, and we're in a good place as long as you can stay ahead. Keep that car in behind. But I think, to be fair, Jesse realizes that that's the task at hand. He won't need to be telling him twice.
That's actually very true as well. I can't imagine that whether his team are really sort of talking to him that much, to be honest, because, as you say, he knows the task at hand, he knows the objective, and his mission, should he choose to accept it, is it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. The gap, arguably, is about half a second. it will continue to, I imagine, sit to be half a second. I wonder if, and I'm almost thinking, I don't know, is Ulenbroek, he's obviously going to want to try and get by. If he does get by, is that going to really change the tactics for Hendricks and the Dynamic Pinks car all that much? I really don't know, actually. Maybe they're banking on it. We'll have to see in a minute because this is the battle coming through. Is it going to be... There's no defense, really, from Hendricks, and there doesn't need to be because he can simply just outbrake the Lamborghini as it stands out, as it currently stands. So even though that Ulenbroek is on better tyres as it stands, Hendricks has still got that car on rails when it comes to braking.
This is, well, it's really, really shaken up, isn't it? You can see how close Renzo is getting, but he can't find a way through. And all the while, Olivier Boldsink's setting fastest lap after fastest lap, setting a 34.9, miles quicker than anyone else on the track. So it is going to have to be a matter of settling for the next 2 steps on the podium. Henrik Graver for Flemish Simsport seems to have second place wrapped up. So then, focus shifts down to Jesse Hendricks. What can he do? He's so strong accelerating out of the corner, but then the Lamborghini really strong in this corner coming up now. Just the direction change, pitches it in, beautifully riding the curb, and then drives out, uses the way the car just hunkers down, doesn't it, when you get on the power. That's one of the big things about the Lamborghini, is that it just hunkers down, and when you put the throttle, it goes. That's when it's at its most stable, it seems. And tell you what, this could be a good exit. This could be a move.
It could very well be a move. It might be. It depends. Hendricks was really good on the brakes last time. Is he going to be the same? Yes, he is. No move at the moment from the DynamiXX #1 car as it stands. Or Hendricks goes a little bit wide. That would have cost him a bit of time. I wonder as well, are we just now seeing that there's just going to be a... are we not going to see too much movement from DynamiXX? They're just going to be sort of sitting here, chilling out, not really pushing the car? Possibly. Are we also going to see... Again, it's too close to call, isn't it? We really don't know at this point, to be perfectly honest. It can go either way. I think that's the other key thing as well, is it could go and we could see strategies completely change. We don't know the strategies, whatever's doing. Like I say, I have an idea as to reckon that I don't reckon the DynamiXX Pink car will be wanting to pit for tyres again. They'll pit for fuel, obviously, but I don't think they're going to try and pit for tyres. Ulenbroek probably won't fit. Probably won't be. They won't need to pit for tyres either. Although, is that they've got newer tyres than the DynamiXX Pink car. Oh, it's just so much to go on. There's so much to go on. There's a couple of... They're not battles as such, but Lucas Romano, Bavo Follen. We've also got Jeremy de Bova as well versus Frederick. Like, there's a couple of drivers that are close to one another, close enough that it's worth to keep an eye out on, and it should be keeping an eye on because that can change very, very quickly. Some drivers as well, they're sort of around the 20, 28 seconds. That's a little more tricky to keep an eye out for. We don't necessarily want to be, you know, they're almost like secondary potential battles in the future. Whereas anything less than about 5 or 7 seconds is something that you really need to keep an eye out of, because that can just change so fast. And when it does change, all of a sudden it just opens up. Not only does it affect both of the drivers racing, but it affects other people's races as well, depending on pit stops and when they come out and when they battle and when they don't. It's a knock-on effect, and it's quite considerable how much it can change it.
Yeah, and it's all about these knock-ons. Just don't want to get knocked off your rhythm, as we see Thijs Vandenberg, unfortunately, have exactly that happen to him. Just a little mistake, touch of the grass on corner entry into the chicane. Slowest area of the circuit, keeps it out the wall, thankfully, but only damage done to the car. Well, it's to the driver, and it's his pride, unfortunately.
Indeed. Yeah, easily done, though. It's very easily done, actually. I've done that. Again,
several times.
Several
Far
times.
too many times for me to mention. I've done it as well.
It is certainly easy to do. I mean, it's easy to do when you're not... I don't know. It's almost just a bit of lapse of concentration, I think.
For me as well, it's difficult to judge how wide your car is. I did it a lot in the BMW because I was run on singles, so it's very difficult if you run on a single screen.
That's a fair point.
Okay, this fight is still going on, isn't it? Between, well, now it's a battle for second place. Flemish Sports diving into the pits.
Very true. I've just noticed that, actually. Yes, you are indeed correct. That's interesting. Is that... Oh, no. It's for 4. Sorry, I was looking at that going... Hang on a minute, it looks like it's for a 5th pit stop, but no, it is for a 4th. It is for a 4th pit stop. So that has now comes in. And as you say, for... this battle, it's so close, isn't it? It's there or thereabouts. It's not too far away. It is not too far away. And you can see there's a little bit of frustration kicking now, possibly, for Ulenbroek, for the Xenom car. I don't know. It looks like... I mean, certainly diving, trying to find some positions here, but I wouldn't call it aggression at the moment.
I think it is, like you mentioned, maybe not aggression, but definitely frustration, because he can feel now his tyres are past their best. He's used all of them up in trying to get through, so now he's starting to hit that little bit of a plateau where he doesn't have the edge now. He's staying there because of the slipstream, but he doesn't necessarily have maybe a marginal edge, yes, through the corners because his tyres are that much younger, but he doesn't have that same advantage. You can see how close he is in behind, but you can't overtake into the next corner. He has to wait bide his time, and again, going through here, you get dirty air. You're going to have to be really, really quick out the final corner, judge the throttle application to perfection, which unfortunately he isn't able to do because of the dirty air. If it was on the sort of newer Zandvoort with the banked curves, then maybe he would have been able to get on the power, hold it flat, get the slipstream earlier, and go for the move, but that isn't the case here. We're running on the variant that was used from 99 till 2019 here on iRacing, and that means that it's just a little bit narrower, maybe just a little bit harder to pass as well, which is definitely being found out by Renzo at the moment.
It is.
Well, it's not Renzo, it's Joel Olenbroek. I don't know why I'm saying Renzo.
You can see it. I mean, the gap has actually opened up a little bit, which is something you do tend to see. What you'll find is a driver will go in, try and attack for a couple of laps or so. At that point, the tyres start to overheat a little bit, the aero drops off, and the car just doesn't feel its best. And then you'll find the driver will back off, then they'll start diving into it again. So, it's a possible move. Jesse Hendricks goes a little bit wide going through, and that is it. So, are we going to see Ulenbroek now pull away? I imagine we would do. A very valiant effort for Hendricks to hold Ulenbroek off as much as he did, but unfortunately, as it turns out, it was certainly not going to be something that was going to be held off forever, because the tyres were just dropping off at this point. More so, I almost think to the point now where I think Jesse is certainly going to have to pit for new tyres, because the tyres aren't going to get any better. Well, actually, no, in saying that, the person now that Hendricks needs to keep an eye out on is Van der Peer, and have a look at those times. The last lap for Hendricks was the 38.4. And the last lap for Van der Peer was a 36.9. So once Hendricks can get him back into a rhythm, now that the DynamiXX one car has got by, now we should be able to see the actual the true sort of current pace when Hendricks hasn't got to worry about anyone. And that's going to give us a good indication of what's going to happen with Van der Peer, and if that move is actually going to happen or the move is going to continue further.
This is, I think, telling now the advantage Joel Olenbroek has. Gap has been extended. Second place seems to be a stronger position for him. But now, the podium's still on the cards for DynamiXX Racing Pink. They can't let that cloud their judgment of what they do next. They have around about 25 seconds advantage to Jürgen Van der Peer in behind. Jürgen Van der Peer, who did take tyres. So now, what do they do next? What is their course of action? Are they going to gamble? Are they going to take tyres at this next stop? Or is DynamiXX Pink going to carry on, try and triple them? I wouldn't want to be trying to make that call, that's for certain. We can have a look at the track temperature to see what they might be thinking about, Dan, because that, again, is paramount. Track temperature, what it is, 24. If it gets any lower, I'd start thinking about potentially trying to triple. But, of course, let's not forget those tyres, they haven't always been driving on a circuit that's 24 degrees. So, again, you need to take that into account, and it's so difficult that I don't know what I'd do. If it was me, I would probably cut my losses, fresh tyres in for the final stop, fastest driver in, and just go for it.
It certainly is something you've got to be conscious of. Or do you... Oh, no, that doesn't work, actually. I was going to say, do you try and actually come into the pits earlier and minimise your time of the stop? But that wouldn't work because you need to do another splash and dash before you got to the end. So that isn't something that you're able to do. Unless, actually, I'm just trying to think, how long are these laps are these cars actually able to go on a full tank? Is it around about... Is it over the hour mark? I'm trying to think.
It is, Joe, just over the hour mark. It's around about an hour and 5 minutes to an hour. About that length of time.
Okay.
Depending on how much you can fuel save.
Yeah. It's interesting. Just, again, I mean, there's so many different ways you can load it, isn't there, to be perfectly honest. What has happened to Drees? Drees has had a couple of moments. One of which was this one here. Going through all... Well, that was lucky. that was lucky, wasn't it? There's another moment here. Going into turn 1, is it just rotation on the brakes? Oh, yes, it is. You can actually see it. Look at that. Must be a fair bit of rear rotation. Sorry, a fair bit of rear brake bias, because the brakes were... You can see the rear brakes. They were working hard at that point, weren't they? So, yeah, that's certainly something that's... we can see there. It goes to a good little bit of insight. It's also really difficult for us to make a... Whoa, that's a send on. Bravo Fallen tries to make a move on Lucas Romano. And you know what? He might have even got it done and dusted, but Romano holds it round the inside for turn 2 and then round the outside for turn 3. Manages to keep that position once more. So briefly dropped down into P9, but then straight away back up to P10. Just uses the drive of the Audi and he pushes him out. Interestingly enough, though, actually... And what I have noticed, that regardless sort of what car you're in, you can still tend to get a pretty decent exit. If you've got someone on the inside, if you get the car straightened up, you can actually get into the throttle pretty aggressively. And I say you don't lose all that much time, do you, to be honest?
Not really. You don't lose a whole mountain of time, do you? And yeah, I don't think that's too bad of a plan. But of course... Drivers have their own plans coming into this. They think about pretty much most eventualities, at least in terms of my experience. Sometimes you can have teams that just go in and have their strategy adaptable, open to change on the fly, and that's how they want to run it. So I think it as well does depend on what sort of team is going to be coming out, what sort of approach they want to take to the weekend. I mean, look at follow on here. Right up there in behind, you can see he was looking one way then the other, going to the inside this time, hard on the brakes. The Porsche is so strong getting it stopped. You can see those brake lights, like you mentioned, lit up brightly. It's the time of the year for Christmas, but I'm not sure if the lights are supposed to go on the brake discs. Definitely very bright there from Fallon. And that's a good little move he made down the inside, nice and committed. Left no bones about what he wanted to do and what he did do. So now he's up into P8.
Yeah, it's a fair point. You know, there was really nothing that there was nothing wrong about that move. To be honest, we had it was committed, it was decisive. The last thing you want to do is to make a move that you're not 100% sure of. If you do make a move you're not 100% sure of, and what happens then is the driver next to you isn't 100% sure of it, and that's when accidents happen. It's one of the age-old things, isn't it, where, you know, if you are in that position and you try and make a move that you sort of think it's going to work, but you're not 100% sure yourself, there's a pretty good chance that it's not going to work. And that's when accidents can happen. I'm just having a look as well. Has that been... So we just come through across lap number 163. No, I've just noticed that Ewald... who's that? Ewald van der Maren from Try Racing. It's only about 8/10 of a second now between himself and Barlow Folland. This could be a battle here now.
Oh. And yeah, it's all starting to materialise now for this movie. They've made up one place. Can Barlow Folland make up another? In behind the wheel, Ewald van der Maren, Try Racing, occupying that 7th place spot. Done very well so far this race to get, well, up to that place. Had a very nice, consistent race. Haven't seen too much of Try Racing, really. I think they've been involved in maybe one incident, and I think that was between themselves and Sim District GT3 BMW. But aside from that, they've had a very, very clean evening's racing, and that's come through in terms of their position, up nice and comfortably within the top 10. But the pace is really, really apparent from Barlow Folland at the minute. Definitely on a bit of a charge. You can see the line coming through now. Nice later apex. Powers out over the corner. It's maybe a little bit harder though, I think, for Babo to make this move, considering it's against, well, the same car that he's up against. But there's a slight mistake from Ewald. You can see it there. Little bit loose on turn in, running slightly wide of the apex. The first part set him all sorts of out of shape for the next bit. And now in behind, look at Babo. He's right up there. Powers on, full flat to the floor on the loud pedal. Is the inside going to open up? Not covered off by the Try Racing car. Down the inside goes Babo Folland. He's so strong on the brakes. Gets it stopped nicely on the apex. See a slight attempt of a cutback being made, but parked on the apex beautifully by the number 10. And up into 7th place goes Babo Folland. This may be on their charge back up through the order. The car that started in 2nd place has had a, well, definitely a trial by fire for its first race of the season, but they've adapted well. They've rolled with what has been thrown at them, and you know what? You're not doing too badly, all things considered. Top 10 is definitely a good starting point for your season.
Yeah, certainly so. You certainly can't argue with it, can you? Let's have a look at this overtake again from the outside perspective. Again, just pops it up the inside, and then at this point, it's just sort of moved undusted, isn't it? You can't really argue with it. Straight up the inside. You see Lucas Romano have a little bit of a... tries to have a look, but that was unfortunately not going to work. Although we have seen Lucas Romano has now got back ahead of Van der Maren by 0.4 of a second. When on earth did that happen? Here it is. What happened here? Must have been a pretty big... Whoa, that's a send. Oh, that is a send. Fair play, Lucas Romano. Take your hat off. And I will tip my hat to you. That was a very, very good move. Oh, we've seen that a couple of times, though. And that corner, it instigates overtakes, doesn't it? Because all of a sudden, you need to take a wide line to get up the inside. Then all of a sudden, if you do that and you get caught napping a little bit, car will just be there. You know, these drivers do not need second invitations in the slightest. And once we can see, obviously, once we thought that was going to happen, well, again, there we are. The gap has opened up. That's about 0.7 of a second. So, realistically, not too bad. Something that certainly Demaran can come back from. Certainly so. How long it will take, that is yet to be seen. We don't know for that at the moment. But arguably, we are going to hopefully be able to get hopefully another bit of a battle here very, very soon. In fact, 0.5 second is now the gap. There is Peter McKay in the Porsche Sport car. That has cost Romano a little bit of time, but it's also cost... Oh, I tell you what, it's cost Demaran even more time. The gap is now 0.9 of a second. It's now 1.4, 1.5. This has really put Lucas Romano in the clear. He's going to... I'm certainly not going to be complaining at this, is it? Let's be honest. Oh, I tell you what. We've got plenty of action to come in these
in the final hour, that's for certain. With the final pit stops coming through, all the strategies coalesce together. It is amazing when it happens, doesn't it, Dan? You think all of a sudden, oh, to this stage where I think the gaps usually are at their biggest, and then it all of a sudden closes in, and we're spoiled for choice to talk about. So we'll follow all of these squabbles and battles as they come through. I mean, from the first hour, we realized that we were going to be in for an intriguing race because drivers, some opted to take tyres, others opted to stay out on the set they had. Track temp was hot, which threw out some definite spanners in some of the works. And another thing to mention, huge credit to Porsche Sport. Big love to them in the chat, of course. Good to see them out there, still carrying on. Only them on the circuit. So Peter Mackay and Ryan Parkins come through to the end of the race. Be very good to see that happen. Peter Mackay, they're currently in behind the wheel for Porsche Sport. Good friend of us here at Sim Racers World TV. Commentator both for us, but also, of course, in the real world. We don't need to wax lyrical about his achievements, but of course, did some great commentating, didn't he, on the 24 Hours Nürburgring, so as I was Sebring, whereas other high-level sim racing gigs as well, VCO Nürburgring Endurance, and you know what, he's a dab hand in the Porsche, which is annoying because when someone's so good at that, usually you want them to be bad at something so you feel a bit better.
Well, I mean, that's certainly not the case with Peter McKay, is it? As you said, yeah, very. It's certainly in and around both the sim, both in the sim world and in the motorsport world, real world motorsport world, which is fantastic to see. And again, it is nice to see more and more. I suppose, professionals, of real world motorsport, people in that sort of profession, regardless of what that is, commentary. Obviously, that could be commentary. That could be race engineers. That could also be general race teams, anyone from race teams, drivers, owners, just pretty much anyone in motorsport getting involved in sim racing more and more, like to the point where it's becoming, to the point where it's just simply becoming almost like, I wouldn't say it's, does it become part of the motorsport world for a lot of people now? Like, is this the new norm? Like, to be involved in sim racing quite heavily one way or another? I almost think it is.
Yeah, I think it could be. It's definitely good to see. Obviously, real life and virtual racing have a bit of a crossover, isn't there? I mean, we commentate together on a championship that sees plenty of real life drivers, both in kart racing, but also commentators as well, don't we? In some MX-5 Mazdas. And it's a real sign that skills are very much transferable. You have the ability that they can show on a real life track translates to obviously the virtual one. Same principles apply, and obviously that also means that people that are quick in the sim, when they go to race in real life, they're quick as well. Was it James Baldwin, I think, who ended up taking part in British GT, if I remember rightly, in GT3 on the I think it was RJN that ended up coming through. He was really strong, which was, I think a lot of people were taken aback that you could actually be quick on a computer and quick in an actual real life racing circuit. But I think the skills can definitely be transferred because the simulations, they're so accurate now, and it's almost scary how far things have come in, well, think about it, the past 10 years.
Well, as you say, the past 10 years of what it's sort of become, and then also as well, the past 5 years, and then what's going to happen in the next 5 years, in the next 2 years as well. Like, it just could be absolutely anything. We just simply don't know, which I think is the exciting thing. Jeremy Debova has a bit of a spin, manages to keep it all in check though. I mean, to be fair, it was a very minimal spin there. It has lost around about sort of like 10 or 12 seconds. Has it done the tyres a favour? No, it certainly hasn't. However, it could have been worse. There could have been some damage, of which there was not. So we certainly definitely will be count that as a win. Dries Multi has had another moment. Where is this? This is on the exit of the last. Whoa, hey, keeps it going in a straight line, pushes forward. Off we go. That was certainly, I think, something that actually want to be trying to avoid. Managed to keep it going in a straight line. I think that's actually couldn't really say that in a better way, could you? To be perfectly honest, you almost just have to. At that point, you have to just sort of like really just crack on. The last thing that you want is to try and make too many adjustments, because if you make too many adjustments, that's when it starts to become a problem, doesn't it, a little bit? You can actually make things worse a little bit if you are pushing the car simply too much, and you're trying to, especially if you go off circuit and you're trying to then correct the car. If you try and correct too much, you end up overcorrecting, and that's when you end up causing yourself more damage.
Yeah, I think that is definitely what you tend to find is you can definitely do more harm than good, especially at this late stage of the race. It's all about sticking to the plan. I've said that numerous times. Stick to the plan. Don't do anything too wrong, and focus mostly on, if you're a back market, you're running your own race, not getting involved in other people's squabbles, and if you're towards the front in a close fight, put the pressure on. Don't make any mistakes. Rely on those around you to make mistakes, and if they don't, then start to push at the end of the race, because it's much, much worse in terms of where you're likely to finish. If you have an incident, you have a crash, say with an hour to go, than with a minute to go. It's going to hurt a lot more because it happens so late, but as well, don't forget the fact that you won't have as much time to lose more positions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's almost an optimum place in which you need to spin, isn't there, really?
Pretty much. I mean, the optimum place is never.
Never.
The second optimum time is probably maybe an inch before the line and cross the line backwards.
Well, I mean, yeah, that is pretty much the only time that you want to, if you are going to spin, that is certainly, as you say, the only time that you really want to do that. Couple of core, we've got, what, another hour and 20 minutes left to go. Or near us makes some difference, hour and 20 minutes left to go. We're around about probably now 25 to 30 minutes away from the final round of pit stops. Now, the final round of pit stops, again, we talked about this before, we'll talk about it again. We don't know what's going to happen with strategy. If anyone would like to come into the commentary box and have a bit of a catch-up in terms of teams, please feel free to do so. It'd be an absolute pleasure to have you for these, for the final little bit of this race. So, it'd be really good to catch up, and it'd be interesting to hear from team owners and etc. etc. So, yeah, absolutely. Do feel free to jump in so we can have your side of the story, and it always gives us a bit of insight as well, and then we can start piecing together this information. I mean, we spoke about them, to be fair, again, not too much, but I mean, Oliver Boltnick, the gap is 2.5 minutes. I mean, there's not really much you can say else, really, is it? This has been a boring race for Oliver Boltnick and the Sim District. The Sim District GT3x5 number 44. This has been, I can imagine, actually, it's a hot lap exercise, I think, at the moment. It's just been absolute dominance from them, which is staggering. It's a 6-hour drive. It's a 6-hour race. It's not an overly long race, especially when it comes to an endurance. It's one of the shorter endurances you can have. Something like, bar a 40, bar a 4-hour race, and it's just relentless pace. It's just madness how much the pace is. I can't get over it. I really can't.
Yeah, there is some definite terrific speed on display by Olivier Bultink, and you know what? It's well, like you said, nothing short of domination so far. Still putting in purple sectors. Still fastest driver on circuit by some margin, and that has left the battles well behind. The next best position drivers can aim to get into is, well, second best, unfortunately, but Joel Ollenbrook not doing a too bad job of exactly that. You can see him up in second place, around about 12 seconds to the good of Jesse Hendricks, who's holding firm in that Dynamics Racing pink car, so not all over yet. Jurgen van der Peer has closed the gap down by nature of having fresher tyres, but I'm not sure if we're going to see a difference in strategy maybe come through. If I was Dynamics Racing Pink, I'd realise best chance of something from this is to commit one way or the other. Either just go for it, I'll keep the tyres on and hope that you're not caught by the end of the race, or roll the dice, fastest driver in, fresh tyres, you might lose a position as a result, but you're going to have to bank on them making the difference for you. And I think if I was Jesse Hendricks and the lap times that he's putting in, they're very good, they're consistent, they're quick, no mistakes coming through. I think if he was to stay out and the tyres will hold on, it should be all right. But we've said that before, and we've seen last lap dramas. There's only, well, looking at the clock, 1 hour and about 17 minutes still to go. Not long for this race that still has to be run.
As you're saying, not too long. That was a bit of a...
I don't know, Dan. This is the more I look at it, the more I'm not sure actually what's going to happen for that fight for third.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have absolutely no clue, to be perfectly honest. No. Do you know what? I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say it. It's probably best if we don't say anything. To be fair, not until the final 2 or 3 minutes, then we'll be like, oh, this is going to happen. And even then, anything can happen right up to the very, very last minute. So, yeah, it's simply the gap is 13 seconds. It's 16 seconds actually now. It is. The battle for second is 12.8 seconds. The battle for P3, as she's saying, yes, is 17 seconds. I think realistically, Uhlenberg, barring no issues, I think that is P2 secured because simply of just the tyres. Like the tyres they're much, much newer than the likes of Hendrix's tyres as it stands at the moment. Even if the pace were to, or even if we were to see a pit stop come in for Hendricks to take some more tyres, that's an additional 20 seconds or 26 seconds. That'll bring the gap to about 40 seconds, 41 seconds. There's not enough laps that will be in the remainder of the session. So, yeah, I think Jesse Hendricks is solely focusing now, and that Dynamics pink car just needs to be solely focused on keeping the car behind, which is Jurgen van der Peer. In the Dynamics Bell Speed car, they just need to simply focus on keeping that car at bay. And as it stands at the moment, it might be a little bit tricky because last laps, Jurgen van der Peer about 4 tenths quicker.
It's every time I see it, it becomes less and less obvious, doesn't it, Dan?
That's the key thing. Yeah, that's the annoying thing. There's just lots of different things going on.
It's exciting, but also annoying because we like as commentators to be able to tell you what's going to happen and help you out, but it's difficult because we don't know. We won't know until, well, right at the end.
Yes, exactly. We simply haven't got the foggiest of ideas. Again, people that are watching in the chat, then let us know. What do you think? What do you think we are? Who do you think's got the jump? Do you think anyone's got a particularly interesting strategy? Do you feel again like? Let us know. I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts. We've got a couple of replays coming up. one of the replays coming up is, I believe actually you may have already previously seen this. No, this is another one for Dreams. Again, the rear just rotates. Now, into the barriers, just about manages to keep it up, I think. And then we got, this is Vice Fredericks. Go through the Lamborghini. Again, just a bit of okay, that was an interesting one. That's one I've not actually seen before. If anything, that looked a little bit like, was it a bit too eager on the throttle?
It looked like it had gone a little bit earlier, and I think he was trying to balance it on the throttle, but maybe just a little bit too much. The car had some minor instability, and I think it just gradually got worse and worse and worse, but he regained it nicely, just a little bit of a bump over a little bit of the curbing. Might not have done his car any good, but certainly didn't hurt him as badly as it could have done.
Yeah, fair point. Like I said, I think, best of the best of a bad situation, I think. As you say, it could have been a lot worse, but luckily was not. Having, again, further look up and down the field, I would also wonder as well how confident drivers are, or how confident teams are on strategies as well. You're having a look at, again, Boltnick. I mean, you can probably sort of, you can remove that the number 44 out of the sort of equation. I wonder again, and again, that it's part of just, again, the unknown, the simple unknown of what we're actually supposed to be, of what is going on, because we don't really have an idea at this point. But I wonder, again, are there anything that teams have up their sleeves? I just don't think there is. I don't think that much else can be done. It's coming forward into the final stages of the race. I somehow don't think that we're going to be... I just don't think no one's got anything that they're able to offer else to the table. Offer back up to the table, I don't think, personally. I could be wrong, and we might see a very, very brave strategy. One of those ones could be... Well, again, I really don't know. I don't know what else can be done. It almost seems to me as if we may just see... There may be a couple of more movements here and there, and I'm sure there will be, because some people will take tyres, some people won't take tyres, and that will throw some spanners into the works. But I don't know. I'm trying to think what else drivers could do to try and sort of like bump their way up the field, and I just think they're almost... Whatever strategy they have put themselves in, they are locked in that strategy now, and there's no real way to get out of it. Again, barring any other potential incidents, which again, we certainly hope that we don't have.
Yeah, I think the only things that you'll see strategies change is probably reactively right at the end of the race, when they maybe pit slightly differently. They'll probably have a thing, right, if this car doesn't take tyres, we do. If this car does take tyres, we stay out. That's probably the only time that I think the strategy will be open to change, and it's based on what the other cars do. If you have to pit before you find out that information, then it starts to become difficult. And I think the drivers that have saved their fuel longer enough, not only will they do better by virtue of having shorter pit stops at the end of the race, they'll also have more information to work with, which I think is a little bit of a hidden sort of, I guess, facet of why going that little bit extra longer on your stints and having that shorter pit stop at the end also helps out drivers, because it's got that twofold benefit.
It's a good point. Yes, it's also a very, very good point. We've got lots of different theories, haven't we? But we haven't really got long until we find out. Goose Franken now jumps into the pit lane. I wonder, is that a scheduled pit stop for the RP Motorsport? I think it is, actually. No, I think it is a scheduled pit stop. To be fair, for the team. And as Goose Franken has actually jumped in, I'd imagine tyres have been changed. Yes, they have. Pit stop was a 1 minute and 9.95. So pit stop has been done. The final pit stop... Well, no, tell a lie. We're going to see a slash and dash by RP Motorsport. I think we're going to have to. Otherwise, that fuel has got to last an hour and 12 minutes realistically. An hour and 12 minutes. That's a tall order, and I don't think it's possible, actually, with these with this fuel, or with the fuel cap of which I believe in this car, correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, but I think is 120 litres in its enduro trim.
Oh, you're testing my brain there. You're testing me out. I definitely know that the BMW is 120 liters. I can't quite remember if it's the same in the Porsche or not. I think you might be right. I think it is 120 liters.
Well, say, I mean, on the basis of that, say it's 120 litres. 120 litres, yeah, it's a tall order. It's a tall order to make that last, you know, an hour and 12 minutes. I don't know. It doesn't. If they're able to do it and not lose a significant amount of pace, fair play. Really, really fair play. If it is a splash and dash that's required, it will be a 20-second loss. That will be a shame, but ultimately, again, as long as the last thing you want to do is run out of fuel. That's the last thing anyone wants to do. Looking at the gaps at the moment, we're just going to bring up the... you can see the intervals on the left-hand side of your screen. Again, everything is starting to open up a little bit now, and then once we get to those final pit stops, you'll see everything close down a little bit more, and that's when you'll start to see possibly that little bit more battling going on, where the times start ebbing and flowing, where mainly it'll be people... it'll be people that would have taken tyres, it'll be people that wouldn't have taken tyres. You know, so again, it's going to be it's going to be a bit of an interesting one. It's going to be a bit of an interesting one. Again, something that I'm very much looking forward to this final hour, because once everyone goes to the pit stops, then that gives myself and Ed the first opportunity, really since probably the first hour, I think, of actually how everyone is stacking up and what possible moves are actually going to be on the cards, and what possible track position changes are also actually on the cards. Because Franken has had a small moment. This was actually, but this was before. No, this was coming out of the pits. Hey, just goes through. Bit of a half spin there, just sort of turn the wheel to the right, put your foot to the floor, and then off you go. So a little bit of time lost there, another 5-6 seconds probably. Nothing more than that. So no harm, no foul, no damage to the car as well. That's the most important thing. No damage to the cars. Really good. Having and again, just looking further up and down the grid for positions and also for timings as well. Timmy Deals and then Bran van Gutven. For an example, in terms of pace, last lap for Van Gutven, 37.71. This lap for, last lap for, this is Dimmy Deals, a 1:36.33. Are we going to see that time come down even more? I think it is coming down, you know. You can just see it visually there. The gap went from 7.1 seconds down to 6.7. No, there may have been a small little bit of back marker there, but arguably the time is coming down, and it's coming down quickly as well, actually. If it's coming down, you know, what's that, 0.8 of a second per lap, it's not going to be too long before the duct tape racing car is on the back of the DynamiXX Simulator's red car.
Yeah, but you know, to quote the great Murray Walker, catching is one thing, passing is something else.
That's very true.
But we've already seen that Dimmy Deals is so strong on the brakes. That's like his best thing. That's what he's good at. That's the main thing. So I don't know. This could be a intriguing way to see this race end for duct tape racing. There's definitely very, very quick in that car as well. What are they going to do in terms of pit stops? Both of them with similar pit stop times. Dimmy Deals was about 9 seconds shorter, but I don't know if that's down to taking tyres, maybe taking, I don't know, would it be better to take outside tyres or maybe fronts for this? What would you do, Dan, in these races? Do you think maybe the drivers have opted to sort of do a strange strategy in terms of taking certain amounts of tyres at each stop?
I never thought about that. It's a good point. It's a good point to consider. And personally, I never thought it made much sense in a GT3. Or any of the GT spec. I never just really thought it made too much sense to just change a set of tyres. Just because it changes the balance of the car a bit too much. So, you'll have if you've got a good bit of grip on the rear, but wait, if you've got your tyres starting to lose more so on the rear than the front, but then you decide, okay, we're just going to change the rear tyres, as opposed to all of a sudden you're just going to give yourself a boatload of understeer, and then your tyres, because you're pushing more through the rear tyres, that's leaning then on the front, you'll then lose the front tyres quicker as well. So to me, it's just never made too much sense to just change a set of tyres. And if anything, I'm guessing it is slower. I'm guessing it is quicker than changing all four. But I'm not sure how much. I'm not sure how much quicker it actually is. So it might be to the stage, to the point as well where it doesn't actually make a difference. And if it doesn't make a difference, well, I mean, yeah, what can you? You sort of have to go with the all or nothing. I wouldn't pit for tyres, man. It's not worth it. I don't think you'll make that time back. It'll be less than an hour. If people pit on, say, quarter pass, which is what we are seeing for people now, say 10 passes an average, you pit within the next 13 minutes. You've got 50 more minutes. I think you've got to set yourself a benchmark, actually, I reckon. If your teams are setting yourself a benchmark, and they can say, right, tyre percentage, if it's over... if your tyre life is still over, say, 75%, stay out. Or stay out on these tyres. If it's, say, for example, less than 75% or whatever cutoff you may be, then you start to pit. This is Dimmy Deals now coming in for the 5th and final pit stop. And everyone ahead. So from 9th up, no one has pitted. They are all going to be going till after the hour, which is crucial.
Having a look. Yeah, Dimmy Deals. He's going to have to save fuel like mad if he wants to make it to the end of the race. Coming in before the 5-hour mark. Could be doable, but he's going to have to save fuel. And of course, pitting earlier than everyone else means that his stop is going to be probably longer than everybody else as well. So he's got to make up time on the track. Can't make it up in the pits. He was showing that he could do it though, didn't he, Dan? He was displaying very good pace earlier. So let's think maybe it's still on the cards for duct tape racing. Philip Vliegen now in behind the wheel. Does that tell us that maybe tyres are being taken? Pit stop going. If it's around about the 1 minute mark, that's usually a sign that tyres have been taken. About 1 minute 10, 1 minute 9s are usually these lap times for full fuel and tyres being changed. So let's have a look. Oh, let's have it. Every tyre's been taken. Philip Vliegen, duct tape racing. And now, what's that going to do to the strategy?
Well, it's certainly going to release, isn't it? It's certainly going to release the that team to start pushing the car a little bit more. Oh, excuse me. Got a bit of a battle actually that has now happened here. So yeah, the battle that we're seeing. So lap number 179, obviously pitting on. Actually, no. Where am I looking at? Pit lap number 184. I'm just trying to see where Dimmy Deals has gone. Actually, I can't. Dimmy Deals for duct tape racing.
Pardon?
Is Dimmy Deals racing for duct tape racing? I've had a complete mind blank.
I think he was, yeah. I believe
Yes.
it was. So now
Sorry,
it's Philip Vliegen.
Yes, sorry. It's the my live timing is showing me some different information. That's why it didn't seem that it just didn't seem that the pit stop was on the correct lap. But Philip Vliegen has actually been thrown straight into a battle, hasn't he, with Wies Frederick. The gap is 0.3 of a second, and what that does mean is... no, they've both got brand new tyres. They have both pitted relatively recently, both on their 5th pit stop. What that does mean is that we do have a battle. This is a very, very close battle here, and this now will be going pretty much, as long as we've done the maths right, and as long as the teams have done the maths right, this should now be going to the end. Does depend on, again, several factors.
It's very tricky, isn't it, to try and get it to work out. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you look like a hero. Other times you well,
You don't.
you don't. Yeah, exactly. You feel like a right prized idiot. But I definitely think no matter what, all of the drivers here this evening can be very proud with what they've done. We've not really had any drivers not finish the race. We haven't had big incidents that have left drivers completely out of action.
No,
Sure, there's
you're
been
very
a few
true.
little bumps here and there, but there's nothing that's actually totaled anyone's car.
No, it's a fair point. Yeah, you're right. We haven't really had anything that you can sort of turn and say, oh, that's caused this person, that's caused that person. No, it's been pretty clean, pretty consistent on that, to be fair. We have got... Oh, there, this is it. Brand Van Jutven has had an off. Where is that? Oh, no, I thought it was going to be a save. Is it? Well, I mean, I think the banking helped certainly there, didn't it? Because that looked to have been... at that, as soon as the car spun, at that point, Brand Van Jutven was a passenger, to be fair. There's nothing he was ever going to do to save that, I don't think. Again, talking about, didn't help because obviously that dip of wheel onto the grass, but arguably the weight transfer of the car, if that was in the BMW, would that have may have something that we could have been caught? Possibly. Again, we simply... That's a tricky one. You've spent the entire race running through this circuit. Bear in mind, we've done 5 hours. We've had 5 hours now. So all of a sudden, lapse of concentration starts to become more prominent. And the lapse of concentration, when it starts to become a bit more prominent, it then also becomes one mistake can actually sometimes lead into another. And then another mistake can lead into another. And so on and so forth. And before you know it, if you're not careful, these mistakes every now and again, they can actually become much more regular. And if you're really not careful, it ends up not certainly working well at all. So, yeah, I'd almost say that that's a small little mistake like that isn't too bad though. But if we start to see a little bit of a couple more sort of incidents here, I think this is one thing unfortunately we've seen from Dries Muji at this stage. Again, just going through again, just another little spin there. Geez, so I wonder again, it's just a bit of lapse of concentration, which is really tricky. Again, I'm not saying that this is an easy task by any stretch of the imagination. It's not, because regardless of who you are, once you start driving a track for a certain amount of time, it does become mundane always to a certain degree. Even if you still are enjoying it, there's always that little bit of time, that little bit of lapse in concentration. Everyone goes through it. I'm doing racing in the Jimmy Broadbent 24-hour, 23-hour, whatever it is next week, and it's Zolder. Now I really like Zolder as a circuit. It's HPD, Cadillac CTSV, and Mustang, which is an interesting combination, and I can certainly can't thank Jimmy enough for choosing that combination of car track, and it's going to be absolute madness. But even though it's a track I really enjoy, we're driving in the Mustang, which actually is a really fun car to drive as well. There will be a period of time where I will just be a little bit... my mind will start to wander, and then a couple of mistakes will creep in, and that's when you've just got to think, right, cool, no, let's take it back, let's nip it in the bag, nip it in the bud, and try and make sure that we don't have to, or we don't let those mistakes run, because if we're not careful, and if you're not careful, those mistakes will run relatively quickly. What's happened here? I wonder... Oh, actually, okay, so Van der Peer has gone into bits. I don't know, to you, what happened with Hendricks' last lap? Because it looked to be really quite significantly slower. It seemed that the gap between Van der Peer went from something ridiculous. It was like a second to about 3/10.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. It could just be a little mistake somewhere, potentially.
Yeah, possibly.
I'm not sure. The one I go back to you mentioning HPD, Cadillac CTSV. Oh, that takes me back. I love the HPD. It's one of the cars on iRacing that I really got on with right from the word go. I jumped into it. It suddenly felt really natural, and I love driving that car. Tell you what, I don't know if it'd be great at Zolder because the You really want to
Curbs.
monster the curbs there, and you can't really do that in the HBD. But it's such a fun car. One of the few cars that I was actually able to compete relatively well in top split events, which blew me away. And it's a shame that I don't race it anymore because not only was I quick in it, but it was just so much fun as well.
It is a really, really fun car to drive. It's one of the cars that I used to enjoy driving a lot. But I'm pretty sure I stuck in that car for, it must have been a couple of seasons. Maybe even more than that, actually, to be fair. It was just a car that was just always there or thereabouts. Like, regardless of what car it was, I'd always be driving it at least a few times, well, if I could, a couple of times every single week. I'd always try. And yeah, it was just it was a really, really fun car to drive, and something that I really, really did enjoy. Equally as well, the new LMP2 car was a very, very enjoyable car as well. Let's have a look at this here, because Hendrix has now come into the pits, and I'm intrigued as to where the Bell Speed car is. So, actually, if I'm just having a quick... Yeah, lap number 100. Okay, so this is... it here. This is Nick Polliott going through. Where is he going to come out? Because... there we go. So we've got, actually, as well, you can just see it on the top left of your screen. Yagazoglu comes back comes back into the car. It's going to be close. It's going to be very close, actually. Am I looking at the wrong car, possibly? I don't think I am. Polliott has taken tyres. Oh, no.
I don't think he has. No, he definitely hasn't.
Tyres.
So he stayed out. DynamiXX Racing Pink has taken tyres. They've got Zoglu in behind the wheel. Fastest driver in that car, it has to be said. But they've now dropped outside of the podium places. They do have, of course, Kimber Hayet still to pit, which should or could potentially put them back in with a chance. They've lost a lot of ground, though, to Nick as a result of that pit stop. So Nick is in a really good spot here to take a podium place from this. Jens Goosen's now in behind the wheel of the Xenon Esports 1 car. And that's intriguing, because I think that is a driver change, and I think that is a sign that they're going to be taking tyres for their final stop of the race. Around about 15 minutes on the clock. Still to run. And this is it. This is where we start to see things close in. The pit stops still yet to be finalised as well, Dan. Lots to think about, lots to see. Is Olivier Bultink, ever the impressive driver, gets the, another fastest lap to add to his tally of pace that he's shown so far. Even with tyres that have been through the ringer, he's able to keep it going. Fuel coming out, and you can actually see the aforementioned Olivier, the number 44 car, right in behind. Looking to try, if he can, to maybe put 2 laps across the whole field, which will be certainly an achievement. It's definitely very impressive, to say the least. And I think it is, Victor Mackay made his final stop for the race. I think there might be one more to come from the driver of the Porsche, as into the pits comes Olivier Bultink this time by. Final stop of the race for the race leader, as we're waiting on driver that's currently occupying 3rd place, Kimber Hayet, finished Sem Sports, making up 10 places so far this race from where they started. Excellent drive from all involved. Qualifying wasn't their strongest, but they've shown good consistency, good pace as well, just throughout the entire stint, to come through into 3rd place onto the podium. I don't know if they'll be able to hold it there, though, with a pit stop still to go. They will, of course, lose out to Nick Polliott and potentially Jamil Yagizoglu, depending on, of course, how long they spend stationary in the pits. I think the 3rd place should be snapped up by Jamil this time by when Kimber eventually makes his way into the pits. Doesn't seem to be coming through for the time being. Look at the car though, look at the sun beginning to set as well. You start to see a shift in the light. Just a touch, I think, Dan. Means that we will have a sunset finish on the cards.
I was noticing this as well. Yes, we are indeed. The times have really started to drop now. Sorry, the sun has really started to drop, and as you say, we're not at that stage yet, but you can just see that the track is certainly looking just a little bit, yeah, the atmosphere is changing a little bit, isn't it? Not by too much, but it is changing nevertheless. So as you're saying, hopefully, and I'm very excited to see that that sunset finish. That'll certainly be something that I will be very, very happy with. I'm going to look up and down the field again. We've got pretty much everyone now that has had their 5th pit stop. I'll tell you one, a couple of people that have not had their 5th stop. This is, let us have a quick look. One of them, or Troy Racing, this is Van der Meren. One of the drivers who has not had their 5th and final pit stop as it stands at the moment. And the other one, as you mentioned earlier on, Kim Bayet, Flemish Sim Sports. The Lamborghini number 86 continues to go for another lap. Arguably, though, I don't know if this is... It might make a bit of a difference. It depends how close. I can't remember off the top of my head and recall how close everyone was before the final or the previous pit stops. But arguably, there's going to be certainly quite a significant amount of less fuel that is going to be taken by Kim Bayet and Van der Meren. You know, we're talking quite a bit less. You know, maybe sort of 5 or 6 litres, which is about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds. Probably in terms of like what you're going to save in the pit stop. Now I wonder, again, depending on how close drivers were, is that going to make too much of a difference? It might do. It might put them in a position where they're going to be able to possibly catch up, or at least defend maybe from a drive if they can manage to jump people in the pit. Again, really don't know, to be perfectly honest. We're going to have to see, but we're also going to have to see again about what pace people are able to do now with tyres and what people are able to do without tyres. So Yagazoglu is one of the battles that we are going to have to continue to keep an eye out for, because they are going to have to, I mean, the pace that they've got, for example, I know that this probably isn't, and obviously we didn't know 100%, but I imagine traffic was involved. Last lap for the DynamiXX Bell Speed car, for the final, for P4, but arguably for the final step of the podium when Bayet and Flemish Simsport pit, was a 1:38 dead. Yagazoglu for the DynamiXX Pink was a 1:35.3. Massively, massively quicker. Like ridiculous. You know, that's a massive, massive pace gain. We're going to have to keep an eye on. So this is Pouliot coming through down for this particular lap. And we'll see, what is it going to be? It is going to be a 37. So more, probably a more normal lap time that we are going to see. And what we now want to see is what is Yagazoglu going to do this time around. As they'll be crossing the line with around about 45 minutes left to go. Whereas there is them crossing the line, and the last lap was a 36.04, so exactly a second quicker than Pouliot as it stands at the moment. At that pace, they've got 20 laps to catch up. Passing is obviously different, but if they can take around about a second out every single lap, that is around about a second. That's around about, 20 laps or so. I'm trying to do the maths in my head. I don't know if that's going to be enough. Actually, let me try and do the maths. Let me just work the maths out. If you would bear with me, Ed.
Yeah, no worries. I've been trying to do plenty of maths in the background, but I'm trying to add the numbers up, and I keep coming to the same conclusion that I don't know what's going to happen. It's all down to the drivers at this stage. It's all up in the air. You know, Zuglu with a lot of pace in the tank. You know that to be true, but it's going to be, I think, quite tricky to make up that much time at the end. Could be doable, but it'd have to be one heck of a drive to snatch a podium here. Maybe if there was a bit of squabbling around him up in front, could help out. Of course, back marker traffic means that any gains you try and make are essentially nullified by the fact that you have to navigate slower cars and you're not able to drive at your optimal pace.
Exactly. This is the true. Well, there's 45 minutes left of this race, and having done the math, which I believe is correct, take that with a pinch of salt as you will. If the gap can come down at a second every single lap, then what that is going to do is that is going to bring this gap down from 20 seconds to battling in 30 minutes or 31 minutes. So it is entirely possible. That then leaves 15 minutes in the bag, well, say 10 minutes comfortably, to get the pass done and push on. Also as well, keep an eye that the Dynamics Pink car tyres are newer. The Dynamics Bellspeed cars are significantly older and they will drop off faster as well. That's the theory anyway. They might not 100% and they might not drop off really aggressively, but they're certainly going to be dropping off more aggressively than the Dynamics Pink car, because it tends to happen when you push the car a little bit more, then the tyres will obviously wear down quicker, but then as the tyres wear down quicker, you start to try and push the car maybe a little bit over the limit and past the limit. That's when you use up more of your tyres. You start scrubbing them a little bit, so on and so forth, and it just continues to run, it continues to go. And before you know it, you're in a position where you're a little bit, you've put yourself in a very awkward position there, where you can't drive too fast because you'll just use too much of the tyres, but then you can't drive too slow because then you will just lose positions that way. So you'll be stuck in between a rock and a hard place. So you've got to make sure you really, really keep it down. The time is coming down though really quickly. It's another second out of the time for Dynamics Pink versus Dynamic Bellspeed. So this gap is really coming down quickly. These have just had a moment. What has happened? Oh, that's on the inside of turn 4, that looks like. Yes, it is, I believe. Inside of turn 4, not ideal. I wonder if it was just a little bit of rotation, possibly. Let's have a quick look. Oh, no. Oh, dear. That's going to be some damage.
Some damage, definitely not great. We're going to see it when it comes around from... Oh, and a little bit more for good measure. Why not, Luctes? It's not been the best of evenings for the Team Ties car. Luke Ties not really in the best of positions. There's steering damage. He's given the wheel a bit of a wiggle. I think it seems all right. He's given it a bit of a wiggle to test it out, but it doesn't look too bad. I think he's gotten away with that slightly in terms of steering damage, because there was a definite knock there on the corners, both in the incident, but also in trying to regain control, get the car back on the straight and narrow, and everything seems to be back up and running normally. Now, Kimber here into the pits. Remotes DynamiXX Racing Pink up into 4th place. Still been a great drive there, hasn't it, from Flemish Sim Sports, making up as many places as they have so far this race. Even if they are out of the podium, they're still definitely in with a fight from something else this evening. Trying to find out what that will be. Yep, definitely a good fight up through the field. I'm having a look at the lap times from Zoglu, and they are quick. He's eating up the time. Half a second gained on Mulia last lap by. Definitely very, very fast at the moment from Camille, but is it going to be enough? Is it too little too late? 40 minutes to go, plus however long of the lap remaining once the time is elapsed, once the checkered flag drops. Oh, this could be, I don't know, down this is going to be very, very tasty towards the end of the race. Question marks on who's going to come out on top, of course. Yegizoglu. He's shown good pace, very good pace. It would be, a bit heartbreaking for him to not get something from this. But still, the drive he's doing is second to none.
It very much is. It very much is. Got to keep up that pace, though. That this is pace that cannot be let off. You know, you have to keep this pace now going forward for the remainder of the race. You simply just can't let off. One of the other battles we've got down here, which is, you know, really coming up to its climax very, very quickly. Stefan Calbret for the Sim District GT3 number 14, and this is the Muck Challenge car, the number 103 Audi. De Vlamink. Again, apologies. Sorry, I'm getting really out of breath then. I'm getting too excited. So the 103 Audi at the moment is catching up at around about, similarly, between 7/10 and a second per lap on the Sim District GT3 BMS eSport car. Are we going to see much of a fight happen here? I'm not 100% sure. I'm also seeing as well Hans Damians and Martin Deckens having a possible battle that's coming down ever so quickly. The gap is now 4.2 seconds. Again, you can see on the left-hand side there. So the battles are really starting to all start to come about now. For the likes of Vladimir and Damians, for example, obviously Deckens is catching up at a rate of knots. This is beneficial because it's happening when they've got a good amount of time to overtake. The one battle, again, we're going to go back to it, that isn't quite, that maybe it's a little bit more on the edge and on the very cusp of being viable or not, is Pouliot and Yagizoglu. That is the one that we're going to be keeping an eye on, and that's not really going to become a battle until probably the last maybe 15 minutes, maybe even less than that, depending on how quickly. That was on the basis of catching up. The calculation I made earlier, that was on the basis of a second per lap. And there are some laps that simply will not be the case. Obviously, the last lap as well from Pouliot was a 1:36.96. Last lap from Yagizoglu was a 1:37.32. That's 4/10 lost straight away. It's stuff like that that will cost you big time. It will cost you big time. How quick is Vladimir at the moment? He is absolutely flying. He's caught up about a second and a half in the space of the first half a lap. I mean, you can see. I mean, this is just going to be, we're going to see at the moment Vladimir just breeze past the back of that BMW. Just catch him with the braking zone in the mid corner and corner exit. Look at it. Audi's glued to the floor.
The Audi now in iRacing is very, very quick, very stable. You can see it just guide through the corners. So just smooth now as well. Look at the exit he's getting as well. Full flat to the floor. Down the inside. Galbraith isn't going to fight this. Realised how quick Vladimir was catching. Realised it wasn't worth it. Now up into 12th place. Good move by the 103. And Vladimir now carries that car up to, I think, up 3 places since the start of the race. So definitely good effort there. Shame that the Sim District GT3 hasn't quite had the race I think they were hoping for. BMW not in the best of shapes, unfortunately. I think just had that phase mid-race, I think after the first pit stop, where they just didn't seem to have the pace, couldn't get to grips with the car, dropped back way outside the top 10, unfortunately, but still great effort from them early doors. Show that we can definitely have some exciting fights in future rounds. I mean, if this is what the first round is going to be like, bring on the next. That's what I can say. Is there's a little mistake from the Audi, and all of a sudden BMW never gives up, comes back through.
So you need to capitalise on opportunity when it presents itself. You can't just sit there and go, oh no, well they'll overtake you again. No, absolutely, you've got to push, especially in these latter stages of the race. First round out of the first round of this championship, you really want to be pushing to gain as many positions, again, ultimately as many points as you can early doors. The more points you gain early on, they will certainly help you when it comes to the latter half of the. Because what it does, it just removes pressure, I think. If you can gain points early on in these races, you can then remove any. You can sort of negate. Well, not negate completely, but you are going to put yourself in a slightly better position. You're not going to have to worry too much. If you think, oh well, I wish I'd have gained that point there, wish I had that point there. points early on really, really pay dividends. You can see that in anything as well. You know, take obviously the Formula 1 season, for example. This just mammoth Formula 1 season that we've had currently in the real world. I mean, the points early on have arguably played a massive factor into, Max leading the championship. And it's that, also it's confidence boost as well. Like if you can, even that little bit there, Calbrek being able to get back past Vlamink, that's just a nice little bit of a confidence boost. You can certainly see how fast Vlamink is as it stands at the moment. And yet Calbrek's just holding his own, just pushing the car where he needs to push it and not trying to push it too aggressively where he doesn't need to push it. And, arguably, it's working as it stands. Yes, okay, this battle may not last for the remainder of the race, and it certainly may just eventually get to a stage where simply Vlamink will come by and there'll be nothing that Calbrek can do. But it's nice to be able to give yourself that, positive reinforcement that you can keep someone back who is significantly faster than you at this stage of the race.
At least at this stage, yeah, and it's going to be down to just looking out for yourself, being consistent, putting yourself in a good spot. He knows now that he can fight. Got lots to squeeze him towards the inside of the track, trying to fight it around the outside. He doesn't have to do it though, and the traction of that Audi is super strong, much like the Lamborghini. It's all that was based off of it. So then had a little look down the inside. You saw for a moment, glimmer in his eye, that he thought he could snatch that place back, but well held, well covered by Vlamink. That we can have a look at other battles potentially appearing to occur. I think the Zemo B car again is potentially up for a late scrap. You can see there's a gap that's around about 2 seconds from Deckens and Damian's, I think.
You know what? It's actually a good shout. It is indeed. Look at that. Less than 2 seconds. You are absolutely correct. Less than 2 seconds in between. We'll separate both of these drivers here. I think we've got...
Deckens was about half a second fast the last lap, so yeah. It's closing in.
It's closing in. It's closing in. This overtake is going to be, or at least this battle is going to happen, not probably in the next 2 laps, but I reckon after, coming on to this 3rd lap, that's where it's going to be. Especially when you get closer to the car in front, don't you? You get closer to the car in front, then you start to lose a little bit of pace. You start to lose just that little bit of confidence a little bit. Not confidence, but you start to lose a little bit of just general sort of overall pace, because you will lose a little bit of downforce and etc. So there'll be a few different things that may not allow a battle to at least catch up at the same rate, especially when you get within that sort of 1.2, 1.1 second mark. It will just be the error will take over. Yeah, brilliant. You'll be really fast in a straight line, but you won't be too. You will suffer a little bit in the corners. Gap has stagnated a little bit, though, I'm noticing. Hasn't really improved. And hasn't really come... Actually, no, I say that. It's just come down 2/10. So, okay, ignore me. There we are. Calbrek has just... Vladimir has pulled 1.6 seconds already off of the back of Calbrek. So Calbrek is dropping back a little bit. Again, we sort of knew that was going to happen, just how fast Vladimir was. There was nothing really could have been done there. Gaps nearer the front, though. I think one of the other sort of smaller gaps that we are... No, realistically, I was just having a quick look at some of the other gaps, but no, nothing really seems to be sort of standing out. It is simply just this is one of the smaller gaps, and one of the gaps I think we're going to stay on board for a little bit and see how long it takes to catch up. Another couple of hints has been taken out from Damien by Martin Deckens. DynamiXX Racing Simulator number 6 Porsche 911 GT3. And just settling the car up, utilising first gear as well to get that car hunkered down, to get that car pushed into the tarmac, and to inevitably slingshot out of the corner. Is it coming down anymore? Yeah, well, look at that. I'll tell you what. 0.3 of a second has just come down again. What Martin needs to do, I think, at this point, Ed, and you'll probably agree with me here, is utilize this momentum that he's carrying. It's easier to sort of get up to someone that you're trying to overtake and then sit behind them, and you lose all that momentum. Which is why, again, you see drivers sort of back off and then try and go again. I think with the pace that Deccan's has got, it needs to get by. Literally just put the nose up the inside and just make the move into turn 1. It's probably going to be the easiest place. You know, up the inside of turn 1. What is a little bit concerning, though, is Damien's sort of blinking in and out a little bit. I can imagine that Deccan's won't be too... will be a little bit unsure as to what to do in this sort of situation now.
Yeah, and you don't want that uncertainty. You want to exactly know where you stand, what is going to happen, and then you can adjust yourself accordingly. Martin Deckens was closing in. Sort of stabilised a little bit this time by, and then the blinking in and out. Well, when you're at that stage of the race, you want to go for a move, you want to know where the car is. If you don't have that to help you out, then all of a sudden, that's how incidents happen, that's how it's going to go on. Also, it's worrying not only for Martin Deckens, because he wants to go for the move, but also for Hans Damiens, because he knows that his connection's dropping out, and he doesn't want to get either netcoded himself, netcode Martin Deckens, or even, worst coming the worst, drop out of the session entirely.
That's a fair point as well, actually. You know, if you drop out of the session, you can't do anything. It's just a shame. It just sometimes it is what it is. Yeah, the more worry for me would be if you're going to possibly cause concern to someone else's race, because yeah, coming into these final sort of stages, you want to. Oh, that was a bit of a cheeky little send there. I thought Damiens was going to be was going to have to sit behind that right-hander, but it turns out not, and we see Deckens going straight through and just trying to make that position. If someone is in front of you and they're going past a slower car, 9 times out of 10 you follow them. It's always the case, you know, almost always the case. You have to follow. Otherwise, what happens as well is that again it becomes uncertainty. There becomes uncertainty in what you're going to do. So you've got to be assertive. You've got to be committed to pushing past. Is this going to be the move here though for Martin Deckens? Dynamics Racing Simulator number 6. No, because again, that's where the aero drops off, and the aero is quite significant in that drop off. Oh, okay, interesting. Not too bad though. Hopefully, it's happening. It doesn't happen too regular, which is okay, I suppose. If it was happening a little bit more regular, it'd be slightly more concerning. As it's only once every now and again, it's not too bad. I think Deckens is able to rigidly, comfortably sort of determine where Damien is at all times, pretty much. Yeah, the last corner really doesn't work when you're directly behind the car. It's just too much aero wash. Because we can see that the gap just sort of, the gap maintains. The driver in front is able to carry that. Is it flat out with no one behind, or is it a bit of a lift? Or sorry, with no one in front, or is it a bit of a lift? It's certainly a lift, obviously, when you have someone in front with that aero wash. Is it the same with someone when you've got clean air? I'm not 100% sure, actually.
I think qualifying you can go flat, but I'm not sure with a full tank of fuel. I think it's a light lift with a full tank.
Light lift with a full tank.
Like maybe not even a lift, like a breathe of the throttle. Like
yeah,
sort of,
it's just sort of like releasing, like
yeah,
10, 20%.
you go to like maybe 3/4 throttle instead of full.
Almost like
Look at that.
like a safety lift.
I've just seen Martin Deckens. He pushes Hans Damiens essentially through the corner. He's really putting, the pressure on. Definitely very close, but then coming out of this next corner, he starts to struggle a little bit. Of course, the dirty air, he's just able to get flat to the floor. And there's my big car. Seems to have downforce trimmed out. He's safe in the straights, and he's also really strong on the brakes, which makes it so difficult for Martin Deckens to really find a way past.
Certainly so. As you're saying, we are seeing. I wonder how Damiens is running. I wonder what wing Damiens is running. Again, identical machinery, identical BOP. It's not like car versus, it's not car manufacturer versus car manufacturer. It is simply Porsche versus Porsche. Nothing really to say more about that. But whoa, that is aggressive on the brakes. Whoa, that's where the pace is gained, isn't it? Wow. That is certainly where the pace is going. Again, you can just see through the corner. It's just the corner speed. That's a bit of a send. Is the move done and dusted? Yes, it is indeed. Although, we are seeing Damien's trying to come around the outside. Is he going to try and do a bit of a cheeky little cutback? He gives it a go. Gives a bit of a bump there. Someone spun as well. That's Steph Del News. Has had a moment. But arguably, I think that is a position done and dusted for Martin Deckens. Oh, that was... Let's watch that again. Let us watch that again. That was very, very good fun to... very good fun to watch. Let's look at that from the TV camera. So... Oh, no. Okay, sorry. This is it talking about when we've had a bit of a moment. This isn't it either. Is this the one? I believe it is. Here we go. Martin Deckens just... I mean, to be fair... Caught Damon's napping a little bit, but again, sat behind so many times at that corner, and then one particular corner, yep, got the confidence, bang, up the inside, jobs are good. Really, really well done. There was definitely a bit of a tap there, wasn't it? 100%. 100% a tap. So Deccan's putting his car in the perfect place.
Just a bit of a tap. Just a little tap, but it was a good move. It was very exciting to watch as well, and it's had the effect, hasn't it, of... Ooh. So this is Steph Del News.
Oh, that's Steph Del News. Ah, so that may have been Adrian Kirstens.
Bit of a moment there.
Yeah. It's easily done, though, because if you touch wood on the grass, it's... You know, at that point, you're already steering. It's just really difficult to care. We're going to see the same thing here. Yeah, again, it's just the tyres. You put two wheels on the tarmac, and put two wheels on the grass, you've still got throttle on. Just rotates the car in a way that you don't want it to. And then as soon as it rotates the car in the way that you don't want it to, it just goes at that point.
Yeah.
It's just no point to... You know, it's very, very tricky to save. And that's regardless of the car. It doesn't matter what car you're in at that point. It's just you're never saving it. Not in a million years. The only thing you can do at that point is simply hit the brakes as hard as you can and hold those brakes. If you try and push the car too much and you try and save the car and you try and do counter lock, you opposite lock, and it just doesn't work. It really, really does not work. So, you know, you've got to be, you've certainly got to be prepared that if something like that does happen, you brake. Let the car rotate, let the car do what it needs to do, and off you go. It's a common misconception, isn't it, Ed, that when something happens, or when a position, if you lose a position, or just literally anything, if you have a spin or a crash or whatever, to try and get going as quickly as you can, and trying to move yourself off the racing line or something like that. No. What you want to do is you want to remain as... the word has escaped to my... vocabulary. You want to remain as... I have absolutely no idea. I've lost the ability to remember half of the English language. Predictable, that's the one. Predictable, there. Oh, it's been a long day. Yes, you want to remain as predictable as possible.
Yeah, like you do. Want to really just know exactly where you stand, what's going on, and there isn't long to go here. 20 minutes. Scott McFall, for he will take the race victory. I think that's a given at the moment, judging by the fact that they are, I think, 2 full laps ahead of everybody else now. What a drive it has been from the 44 car Sim District GT3 YBMS Vibe Esports. Cracking drive that is not by all of the drivers this evening. Scott McFall, Olivier Boltink. Amazing stuff. I think was there another one involved as well, or was it just a pair of them? I'm trying to remember now. It's trying to rack my brain just a little bit.
Sorry, it says what
I think it was definitely Olivier Boltink. We've got Scott McFall. I think was that the pair of them, or was there an extra one?
Oh, that's a good question, actually.
I'm trying to think now. Let's have a let's rack the brains. Let's make sure I'm not talking total. No, it is I think just the pair of them. It's Scott McFall, Olivier Boltink. I was having a look at the registration sheet and saw several other names there, and wanted to make sure that they hadn't taken part. But no, it was just the pair of them. But what a job both of them have done. Fastest lap so far is actually held by Olivier Boltink with a 1:34.619. I think Scott McFall is, well, he hasn't been able to really have a chance to go against that because he's on the old tyres. He's the one taking the checkered flag, but the last pit stop, he didn't take tyres. So Scott isn't able to go any quicker as we see Lamink going for a move down the inside, getting it done on Stephdale News.
Indeed. No mess, no fuss. And there we go. Was that the move from earlier on? It may actually have.
No, I think that was a different...
Was that a different move?
I think that might have been because... I can't remember. I think that might be a different move. I'm trying to remember now. I'm trying to rack my brain and see if that was the same move or different. But regardless of that, that was a new move as well. Actually, I think that was the.
Oh no, it was. Yeah.
Overtake. So that was a good little overtake of Lamink, getting it done nicely. Got good pace as well. Has actually been able to extend his margin up ahead of Stephdale News. First one, last lap. Speaking of margins. Luke has been closing in. You rebel mind. Luke closing in to Nick Villiers with around about 20 minutes to go. The gap just about 10 seconds. And, well, that last lap, Luke was around about nearly a full tenth, about 9/10 of a second, nearly a full second quicker last lap. It's getting closer. It's hotting up. It's, could be seeing two Dynamics cars fighting for that bottom step of the podium, you know.
We might very well be. You are absolutely correct. I'm just... some more calculations required here. Bear with me 2 moments. So I'm just going to try and calculate how long, realistically, or how much time... Are there even 10 laps to go? They're probably... Oh, I tell you what, it's going to be close. If anything, it's going to be like a last lap. It's going to be a possible last lap battle. Last lap for Pouliot was a 136.02. Last lap for Yagazoglu was a 137.06 for Bell Speed, and then 136.13 for Dynamics Pink. So the times, as you say, are coming down. Is it going to be enough? The gap for the first time has now dropped under the 10-second mark. You can just see it on the left-hand side next to Yagazoglu's name, 9.850. I can actually confirm it's 9.75 now as it stands. What are the times going to be from here? 7.22 for Pouliot. What is it going to be for... Oh, it's even faster. It's 1.2 seconds gained that time out for the Dynamics Pink, number 88. Oh, I really don't know. I really don't know. This is great. I'm enjoying this thoroughly, and I hope everyone else is as well. Yeah, this is very, very close, and this will be close as well. Like, we're not talking about, well, there'll be 3 or 4 laps maybe, and then it'll be better. No. This may very well be like the last lap battle, or a last lap battle, I should say. Which
is going to be. This is going to be something else. The gaps keep coming down, and this is it. Pouliot is on old tyres. This is his second stint on this set of boots, and you can see he's slowing up. He isn't able to go as quick. Lap time is now a full, a second and a bit slower than previous best, and that's with the track temperature as low as it's ever been. It's now, I think, down just to about 20 degrees. And the lap times are getting slower, which means Yagazoglu can capitalise on fresh boots. Sort of the track at the best it has ever been as well. Cold, very rubbered in. And now look, it's down 8.5 seconds nearly. Track temperature, like we said, coldest it's ever been, 21 degrees. Time coming down, the gap is really, look at that, how much he's committing, sending it on the back markers. He's obviously being helped by the fact that was actually Kirsten's giving him plenty of space. But still, he is really committed. Even if it's a back marker, he fully sends it like it was an overtake for 3rd place, which you never know. He could be trying to have to do exactly that in the next 10 minutes. Oh boy, Dan. We always say you never know what's going to happen until it happens. And I'll tell you what, it's happening right now.
Well, it is indeed. You're absolutely correct. It is happening. And I mean, either way, this has been a great event. Again, apologies for the small little break we did have in between. But yeah, it's really started now to kick back up a notch, and arguably this is becoming certainly a very, very enjoyable portion of the remainder of this race. Less than 15 minutes left to go, and the battle still, or one of the battles we are still looking at here, is the battle between the Dynamics Bell Speed car, currently sitting in P3, and Semil Yazizoglu in the Dynamics Pink car. The gap is now 7.4 seconds. As you can see again on the top left-hand corner on the timing tower of your screen, track temp is dropping significantly. Is it going to drop anymore? Probably not. As we see the shadows starting to appear ever more. So we're not going to be past sunset here. It is still going to be light. However, we may see the lights casting a shadow and casting the headlights casting light onto the track towards the final few laps as we come into these closing stages of the race. You can see the tarmac as well. You can see where the line has started to develop, and it's really, really become a very prominent line now. And if you are off of that line, it is a very, very noticeable difference. This is the battle to watch out for. We've got a couple of other battles that we are going to keep our close eye on, but arguably the battle we do need to just work out, because also as well, two different strategies playing out at the moment. This is one of the drivers here. This is Nick Pouliot, Dynamics Bell Speed car, the number 1. This is a battle for P3. Arguably a battle that has been happening for, not necessarily a battle on circuit, but a battle that has been happening for probably the last, maybe getting on for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I think we can probably comfortably say it.
Oh yeah, it's been going on for a long time. And it's coming now to the end of the battle. It's been amazing to see it go on for so long. Brilliant. He's fighting bravely.
Angle, though. I'm just having a look at the steering angle. Like it just like the car is really, really pushing at the moment. It really just looks like the car is pushing just that little bit too much. You can actually see. Normally, generally, what you would do in this sort of scenario is you want to keep your steering lock, especially the medium to high speed corners. You want to keep it at about sort of 90 degrees. Have a look at the steering lock on the left hand side. If we were just to, I'll tell you what we'll do as well. Let's just remove the timing tower as well, just so you can see it. Again, on the left-hand side, 90 degrees of lock for medium to high-speed corners is about the limit. If you start pushing the car more than that, just like that, what's happening is, you just saw it then. So you could hear the throttle being applied, and at that point, the car was like, nope, I'm fine. And the understeer just sets in. Now, this is what happens with the Porsche. If you get caught up in this a little bit too much, then the Porsche actually, it will eat its front tyres. It's very hard to notice when that pace is going to start. It's really hard to notice when the tyres start to lose traction. They scrub because there's not too much weight over them anyway. Okay, let's now go on board with Yazizoglu and have a look at his steering input. Look at that, up to 90 degrees and then holds it there. Doesn't then increase the steering lock, because otherwise that's just where the tyres are going to scrub. Have a look through turn 1 as well. You saw that the steering lock that Pouliot had. The gap has now come down, 4.7 seconds, 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes left to go in fact. Have a look again at the steering angle on the left-hand side. Have a look. I'm going to be completely proven wrong there. But arguably, even that then, you're using just a little bit too much of the tyre at that point, and it just is something to be conscious of. That you can certainly see there isn't as much steering lock, being applied, which is in turn using less tyres. But it's the chain reaction, it's the snowball effect. Especially when your tyres get older, you start to think, oh, I need to add more steering lock to try and get the car around to the corner. That then wears the tyres out even more. And then you've got to drive, and it just snowballs really, really quickly, which is why I think we've now seen the Well, I think the gaps seems to be the gaps coming down relatively at the same pace. Actually, no, I think the gaps are coming down a bit. It's quicker. It's already come down about 0.6 of a second already this lap alone.
Oh dear.
This could be it. This could be another 2 or 3 laps. The gap is absolutely being demolished. Have a look at this. We're going to bring up the battle box for you. We're going to bring up the battle box for you now. There that's actually the wrong. Sorry, we're looking at the wrong one there. There we go. Actually, no, I'm looking at completely wrong one. What am I looking at here? It's not giving me the correct names, which is interesting. I'm not 100% sure why that is the case. No matter though, you can see the timing tile on the left-hand side, and it is showing that the time itself is certainly no time at all. It's 3.3 seconds this lap. 35.8 was Jagazoglu's last lap, and 37.24 was Nick Fogliat's last lap. Yes, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. It's certainly going to be a battle. Whether the move is going to happen, really don't know. But the battle is going to happen one way or another. Oh, I'm excited.
It's going to be great. This is one of the things we always look forward to in endurance racing, isn't it? Just to see all of this unfold, see everything just come together right at the end. We said sometimes the strategies don't necessarily always work out right after pit stops. It comes right at the end of the race. And we've got one right here. There's Oglu closing the gap down. In fact, if you probably go on board, and you can definitely see now the target clear up ahead, Nick Fogliat. And I think that's going to spur him on even further. 7 minutes to go. Just under 3 seconds the gap. It's game on.
Certainly is. Looking back now to the leaders. Scott McFowle, Sim District GT3, number 44, is still leading by what is a staggering 3 minutes and 32 seconds. Oh my word, what a drive it has been for both of these drivers here. It has been absolutely amazing, and the team has just done an absolutely stellar job. Unfortunately, obviously, the sister car, currently driven by Steph Kalbrecht, in P13 at the moment, so having lost 8 positions over where they started, which is a big shame. But arguably, though, the team will certainly be looking to move forward and to progress with this 100%. This is really, again, I mean, there's a couple, I wouldn't say battles, but there's a couple of cars that are a little bit, are close in proximity with one another. And that close proximity, again, can certainly spice things up a little bit, and it can certainly change. If it does change a significant amount, then obviously that's going to be a position gain straight away for people, because, a couple of seconds, a half spin even, that will cost you 3.5 seconds, easy. So it's certainly not over. You've got to be running flat out until the flag drops, because you simply don't know what is going to happen. And anything can happen in something like this. We've seen a couple of half spins that just happen from what seems to be nothing really at all. And when they happen, it's so easy to, you're losing 2.5, 3, maybe even 3.5 seconds, depending on the spin. So, you've certainly got opportunities here, right up till the checkered flag. Speaking of checkered flag, again, apologies of where we're going to go back to, but this is going to be, once again, back to the battle here. That's the battle there. That is Bellspeed versus Pink for the Dynamics team. Look on the left-hand side of the timing tower. It's less than 1 second now. Oh, this is going to be close, because there are, 3 laps remaining, I would imagine? Maybe 4, depending.
This is really down to the wire now. It is the final 5 minutes. The gap is well and truly come down. Right up behind each other. Dynamics Bellspeed versus Dynamics Pink for the podium. And really, exactly what a stint this has been. Even if he doesn't take this position, it's been a cracking drive up until now, coming back from, well, pretty dang far back. There's also fights erupting that we've kind of not seen, but Flaming's got down to Franken. Who's Franken? RP Motorsport by BT. Under a lot of pressure as well, and this is for the top 10. So there's fights erupting everywhere now all of a sudden towards the end of the race, and there's a mistake coming through. Pouliot runs a little bit too deep on the run into the corner. Hampus has run through the remainder and coming out. Little look down the inside from Jägersoglu, but knows he can't overtake into the second to last corner. Look at how much curb he takes through that bend, though. Gains a lot of speed, keeps the car stable. And now here we go. Slipstream up across the line, up into the first corner. This is it for Jägersoglu. He's going to be hard on the brakes. Pouliot opts to go around the outside to try and hold it. Jägersoglu has to fight the wheel to get it to stop. Little bit of a twitch with the ABS kicking in, but he gets the move done. Brilliant pass from the podium by Jägersoglu. The 88 car comes out on top. And it's going to be sitting very pretty in pink now for the podium. As long as he's able to keep it going, keep it on the track, DynamiXX Pink will be podium sitters for the first race of the season.
Certainly will be indeed. Just having a quick look here. So, Franken did pass Fleming. What happened here? What happened there?
I think potentially there might have been a little bit of an incident. I think Fleming made the move, but then conceded the position back. There might have been a bit of contact. And there was contact.
Ah.
And he went through and then gave the position back.
Yeah, it was never. Yeah, unfortunately, it was never going to work.
So yeah,
Just
went
didn't
in
brake late enough.
bit too late. Only just basically kept his nose sort of there or thereabouts, kind of half looking for a move, and then had to wait. But now he can have a second bite of the cherry. He's been very quick. He knows he can make the move cleanly, but he's given himself less time to do it. In now, 2 minutes gone, covering the inside from Franken, but around the outside, Flaming's going to go for it. Side by side for 10th place. Good drive out, but the marbles, is that going to slow him down? No, it doesn't. Great move all the way around the outside by Flaming. MC challenged by DB1. Wow, wow, wow. That was a great move. Even on the marbles, he can get the power down.
Very impressive indeed. That was a very, very committed move, certainly. So, Stefan Luz has just had a bit of a moment. We have just seen, just having a quick look. I wonder, is this going to be... Stefan Luz has had a crash, apparently. What has happened there with Stefan Luz? Oh, okay. That's certainly not what you want to see. Is it going into turn 3? Mechanical failure, perhaps? I mean, the car is... Oh, dear. I wonder if the steering wheel is sort of... Maybe like I said, equipment failure. Driver equipment failure, possibly. It's certainly not the last we've seen of it. Yeah, we've seen that in the past. I wonder if that was the case. It would be a shame if it was, because it's only had 45 seconds left of this sprint. Speaking of which, you know what? I think this is actually going to be the last lap. It is indeed the last lap. One more lap to go. That is Luke Thies has also just had a moment. You just saw him in turn 4. Just saw the side profile of the car then. Scott McFowle, one more lap to go, or about 2/3 of a lap to go now, and he will be taking the checkered flag. I mean, pole position, fastest lap, and on track for the race win. I mean, it's the trifecta, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a great race. Led every single lap. The Scott McFall, and of course teammate Olivier Voltink. What a drive it has been from the pair of them. They were very strong last season. This team in the Ferrari GT3, or not the GT3, the GTE, but now in the GT3s and the Lamborghini, Scott McFall will be able to take the car through the final couple of ends to come out on top to secure the first race victory of the season, in the first race of the season, by Simdristic GT3 by BMS Esports. Just one final corner to go. Great run. Caps off a dominating performance by himself and his teammate, Olivier Bulting. Scott McFall take top honours here in the first race of the season in the DynamiXX Racing Simulators Endurance Championship. Cracking drive from start to finish. Only one minor mistake that really came through, and that was a little error midway through the race coming into the final, into the chicane. And then they've looked impervious. Jens Goosens rounds out the final corner. Zandvoort Esports won. Takes second place. Brilliant stuff from them. Held their nerve. Made up bases as well on their way through to take second place. And then this man, one of the stars of the show, has been this Dynamics Pink car, sending moves left, right, and center. You can see how much it means to them. They will take third place. Brilliant drive from Dynamics Racing Pink. And it caps off a very, very powerful drive from themselves. And then as well, coming down to the Porsche Cup class, Peter Mackay has greeted the checkered flag. You can see him coming through turn 4 now. What a drive that was. I mean, didn't have anything to worry about, but still, credit to them for sticking with it, for going out there. They've got plenty of experience behind the wheel, and that sets them up beautifully for the next round of the championship, which, if memory serves right, I will just try and find the details of, but I believe it comes to us on, I think, the 18th of December. I will just double check that, just so we know when exactly we can see all of the excitement coming through to the fore on Sim Racers World TV. The DynamiXX Endurance Series. Yep. Saturday, December the 18th at Monza. Another 6-hour spectacle. And will anyone be able to match Scott McFall? Will Porsche Sport be uncontested, or will they have plenty more drivers to contend with? Of course, signups are open for this. And we will be able to get a few message us on any of our socials. We can help you get sorted out for joining the coming rounds of this championship. What a race that was. Credit, of course, Peter Mackay, Porsche Sport, everyone there. Kai Parkins having a very, very good time. And yep, you can see you in the chat. Monza, the 992 is definitely going to be a very, very quick car. Peter Mackay, P1. Also, you know, maybe he'll come back stronger, not finish in the last place. Well, brilliant evening's racing, wasn't it, Dan? Brilliant evening from everyone involved. Thankfully, no one involved in major incidents. Everyone came across the line, apart from, I think, one car, but I think that was a slight mistake in the sign-ups from Medima and Sim District TCR, because there aren't any TCR cars. I think there was a slight mistake in signing up and joining. Still, brilliant stuff. Everybody finished that race.
Indeed, very, very true. In absolutely, yeah, great stuff. Really, really excited to be able to see everyone finish the race. Pretty much sick to see as well. That is Sim District number 44. But here are your finishing results fully here. So Sim District GT3 by Vibe BMS Esport taking the race victory. Zandvoort Esports number 1 taking second with Dynamics Pink in P3. Dynamics Bell Speed takes P4 with Flemish Simsport is in the top 5. Dynamics Racing Simulators 6th with Decimo.be in P7. Try Racing takes 8th place with Duct Tape Racing in P9. McChallenge by DB will be taking running out your top 10. RP Motorsport by BT taking P11, and then Sim District G3 by BMS Esport, the sister car, number 14, and the BMW taking P12. Zandvoort Esports number 2 in 13th, Steph Del News in P14, with Edgy Kirstens in P15. Luke Thies takes P16, and then Peter Mackay was last. Well, sorry, I say Peter Mackay. It wasn't obviously just Peter Mackay, but we have Team Porsche Sport were taking the race win in the Porsche Cup category, also being able to finish last, and also being able to finish second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and everything in between. Also, they have the fastest lapping class as well, which is absolutely fantastic. Very, very good stuff indeed. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, credit to them, on their own, having to run, running the race, excuse me, running the race on their own. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And yeah, so Ryan Parker, the other driver there as well. Absolutely amazing. Hopefully we're going to have a chat with a couple of drivers in a few moments' time, all being well. And if we could. I'm just going to quickly have a look in the interview waiting room to see if we do have someone, if we do have a couple of people waiting to come in. We will have a quick chat with them, and then we'll be able to wrap up for round number 1. And in fact, I think we do, Ed.
Oh, I think we do indeed. Yes, we've got Ryan Parkins and Peter Mackay coming into the car stocks, both drivers for Porsche Sport. Part of me thinks, do we interview them both at the same time or separately? And do you know what?
Come on.
Let's bring both of them into the car stocks. Peter Mackay, Ryan Parkins. I mean, congratulations and commiserations. First and last, I bet you were having a good time there in probably what is one of the most fun cars on the iRacing service. Probably one of the most technical tracks.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Loved it. Hello.
P1.
Hello.
P1. P1.
The gentleman's set. Fastest lap, pole, P1.
Fastest in lap, fastest out lap.
Fastest everything. Also, technically slowest everything, but we can move away from that and instead focus on how much fun that was, because it seemed that both of you were fighting to get into the car.
You go, Peter.
Yeah, well, we made a bit of an error. I made a bit of an error on the timing. So I had another broadcast to do, and that meant that Ryan had to do the first 3 hours on his. 3 hours and 35, I think, on his own, and then I did the final 2 stints. So yeah, it was good fun. Lamborghini number 12 can, they can get in the bin. Because there's a shocking behaviour out there on track, to be honest, brake checking people for no reason. But we're P1, so it's okay. And we're looking forward to the fast tracks. We're looking forward to Monza and Montreal, because I think our little cup car might have a little secret weapon up the sleeve coming to those places.
Oh, a secret weapon, do you say, Pete? Well, we'll look forward to that. Monza, of course, a power-dominated circuit, helps out the Porsche with its straight line top end speed. But just talk us through what the car was like to drive at Zandvoort, which is a technical demanding track. You didn't see really any mistakes coming through from the pair of you.
Well, we actually did quite a bit of practice and we set the car up so it was as balanced as it could be, but obviously it's a clockwise track and the front left tyre just gets an absolute beating. In practice we were hitting like 18%. So that the tyre would have got a puncture and exploded. That we managed to sort that out and made a set that we both can drive. And yeah, driving wise, it was pretty easy, wasn't it actually, Peter? It wasn't that difficult, just cruising.
It was nice and smooth. Yeah, I think it's because we knew we had to be pretty tidy on our fuel consumption to make sure we only did 4 stops, and that just I think that actually kind of kept us in control. So yeah, it was nice. And Zandvoort's a lovely track to drive. You get into such a nice rhythm around it, and it's been good fun. This new 992 Cup car really lets you away with a lot more than the 991 did as well. I think we're about to see a crash on screen here. Just
a little kiss.
Watch the paint. Watch the paint, mate. Watch the paint. Audi drivers, eh?
But Audis, it's just as bad on race circuits as they are on motorways, Peter? Just as bad.
Exactly, you got it.
But no, that was good. And I actually want to come on something because we've got a little bit of time and I can only see one other driver in the interview waiting room. So we've got plenty of time to have a little bit of a chat about Monza. And you mentioned about fuel saving. Is that something that is going to be more important than ever? Or do you think maybe the 4 stops aren't quite achievable?
No, I think the 4 stops will be doable, and I also think that we'll be pretty decent on the straights as well. I think that's especially also off the slow corners. I actually think we'll have more of an advantage at Montreal actually than we will at Monza, because there's so many slow corners and so many long straights after those slow corners. So yeah, I think Ryan and Jacob, they're the setup gurus. I'm very much the AM driver, and this is a platinum and bronze, and I'm the bronze. So yes, I think Monza. I think we should be able to do it in 4 stops, and that's the attribute we've got to play to, I think.
And obviously we're talking about fighting the GT3s there, not just ourselves.
Oh no, yeah, we were thinking about seeing what you can do in terms of straight line speed. That is your advantage, and who knows, Peter? I think Sorry, go on.
Well, we're trying to do a Porsche RS Spider. Of course, there's back in the late 2000s in the American Le Mans series, the Porsche RS Spider as an LMP2 car won outright quite a lot against the big diesel Audi. So we're basically trying to do some RS Spider hero drives. That's our goal now.
I'll see if you can take anything from Porsches of old to have the Porsche of new come out on top. It will be looking forward to seeing you and Ryan as well getting involved in all the action at Monza. Before we say goodbye to you, Peter, first, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out on the broadcast?
Yes, I'd like to thank my mum, Jill, for not getting too angry at me when I used to crash all my cars when I was younger. My dog, Brew, and my fiancée, Lucy. Oh, and my teammate, Ryan, for carrying me.
And Ryan, down to you, mate.
I want to thank my personal trainer to give me the strength to carry Peter.
Also,
class.
guys, do you know that when you broadcast live in Discord, it sounds like do you not think it sounds like a fart in the bath?
When you hit the streaming button.
You know, you hit the stream button, it goes.
Oh, I'm a student. We don't have baths. We've only got showers. We're too poor. I've not had a bath in ages.
When you go home for the weekend.
I'll try. I'll do that, and I'll think, oh, Peter, you're bang on the money. I'll try that for you, mate.
Oh, Ed, can you tell the drummer joke?
Oh,
Yeah.
we've got to save it for a special time, Peter. We saved the drummer
P1.
joke.
This is a special time. P1. Come on.
Okay, what did the drummer call his two twin daughters?
I don't know.
Anna 1, Anna 2.
God!
There you go.
Get us out of here! Get us out!
We'll get you out of here before everything descends into too much chaos. And thank you to the pair of you. We'll. Oh, dear Lord, whatever are we going to do with the pair
Ciao,
of you?
I'm going. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, you two. Oh, dearie me. And with that, Dan, I think I need to lie down and I'll let you have a word with Olivier Bonsink, who joins us in the comments box now.
Right. Olivier, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good evening.
How are you doing?
I'm okay, and you guys?
Good. Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Ed needs a bit of a moment to calm down after the previous the previous broadcast the previous interview that we've just had with Ryan and Peter. Yeah, I mean, well, Olivia, talk us through your race. How did it go? Talk us through it all. 6 hours. It's a long old time.
Well, the race went good, apart from the 2 mistakes I made.
That's right. We can gloss over that. It's fine.
So for the rest, it was good. We had good pace. My teammate was brilliant. It was just spot on, I think.
Well, certainly so, and I think to be fair, realistically, it's a good position for you, sort of moving forward into the remaining, obviously, a nice way to start the season off. What are you going to be taking forward going into next season? Going into the next race. Is there anything do you feel that we need to work on, or?
Yeah, just not to make any mistake from my side. So I think this will be the main point, because it was actually a rookie mistake, to be honest. But for the rest, I think we just need to have fun like always and just drive and keep it good and have fun.
Indeed, absolutely. Well, and that is the cause. We all want to have fun. If we have fun, that is the main thing. It's what we want to do. We can,
Exactly.
if we can have fun, then that is the most important thing. Well, brilliant. Olivier, a pleasure to catch up. Is there anyone you want to give a quick shout out to on the broadcast before we wrap up?
Yeah, I want to congratulate Peter and Ryan. Huge respect for them to drive with the Porsche Cup alone and to finish the race and had good pace. I want to thank Stefan Calbra, because he's the team owner and he let us drive. And I want to for sure thank my teammate for his superb driving and stints. It was really on point. So on to the next one, and we need to make the sister car good, because I think I made a small mistake to say they need to double stint the tires, and it wasn't possible for them. So that was my mistake, I think.
Oh, I see. Right, that's actually just very quick. I want to touch on that. How did the tyres sort of fare for you actually, sort of moving forward? What was the game plan with tyres? Did you know that you wanted to have a particular strategy with them, or did you decide that sort of as you went?
I was a little bit in doubt to double stint them, but I think it was the fastest way. But the first two stints were in hot temps, so after 35 laps in the second stint, I had to come in because the tires were like ice. So I had to come in 5 laps earlier than normally, because the car was sliding all over the place and it was hard to drive, and so that's why we stopped 5 laps earlier in second stint.
Gotcha. I mean, that certainly would explain it. That certainly would explain it indeed. Well, Olivia, thank you very much for tuning in and for being a part of this broadcast, being a part of this race series. Absolutely a pleasure to have you. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you next time out in similar circumstances.
Let's hope. Thank you for the broadcast and for the interview, and see you next time, guys.
Take care, Olivia. Have a good one. And there we go. That is it, Ed. We are going to wrap up. Obviously, we've run out of time. Unfortunately, we have indeed run out of time. Final thoughts from yourself, and then obviously we'll be able to give a quick little bit of a wrap up, and then we can focus our attention onto round number 2.
Yeah, definitely round number 2 at Monza. What a spectacle that is set to be. You can already hear Porsche Sport excited about their chances, not only in the sort of the standalone, but also in the overall, seeing what they can do to come out on top. Of course, a track that will play to their strengths, straight line top end speed. You won't want to miss this, of course. It might be tricky on the brakes, but their power's out of the corner means that you're going to be in for a real treat. And as well, what a race we've seen in the GT3s. Scott McFall, Olivier Bultink coming together to put on a dominating performance from start to finish. Fastest lap, led every lap. And took the eventual win ahead of Jens Goossens, who had a good drive. Zandvoort Esports 1 going up through the field, making up a position to get into second. And then Dynamics Racing Pink. The moves that were being sent at that first stint were something else. And then as a result of the contact that happened early on, they had to do it all again and timed it just about right to come out on top with only about 2 minutes to go in the race. That was when the move was done. That was when Dynamics Racing Pink sealed the deal, secured third place. And what a drive as well from everyone involved. The main thing is that everyone that took to the green flag, that completed the first lap, completed the rest of the race, which is the big thing to really focus on. And hopefully we'll see the exact same at Monza with probably exactly the same amount of action, Dan.
Yes, we certainly will indeed. Well, again, from Ed May and myself, Daniel Handover, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to all of the drivers. Thank you to all the people that are watching for your patience while we commentate and are able to watch a fantastic race number 1 of the DynamiXX Endurance Series here from Zolder. Not even Zolder, Zandvoort even. I'll get it right eventually. We look forward to seeing you next round for Monza. But until next time, everyone, as always, make sure you take care and stay safe.